Chapter 33:26. Guarded ground. The young sorcerer tribe member saw that Zhuowen was not to be outdone and fell silent. However, the anger in his heart erupted like a volcano. However, he didn't say anything. He was mainly afraid that Zhuowen might have done something to his divine soul, just as he had told him. This was because he did feel a piercing pain in his spiritual soul. However, the pain was not obvious. In addition to what Zhuowen had said, he was really afraid of the consequences of his spiritual soul being destroyed like Zhuowen had said. What do you want to do to get rid of the technique in my spiritual soul? The young sorcerer tribe member stared at Zhuowen and asked secretly. Bring us to the Sorcerer Song Festival. If you do well, I will naturally get rid of the technique in your spiritual soul. Zhuowen replied calmly. The young sorcerer tribe member stood up and glared at Zhuowen. He then said loudly, "Everyone, gather. I will bring you to the Sorcerer Tribe main hall. The Sorcerer Song Festival is about to begin." Many of the foreign tribe members at the entrance looked at the young sorcerer tribe member in shock. Everyone thought that the young sorcerer tribe member would call for powerful sorcerer tribe members to punish Zhuowen. However, the young sorcerer tribe member acted as if nothing had happened and asked everyone to go to the Sorcerer Tribe main hall. However, they did not pay much attention to it. Instead, they followed behind the young sorcerer tribe member excitedly. How could they not be excited when they were about to go to the Sorcerer Song Festival? However, Jingshan looked at Zhuowen meaningfully. She had caught the sound waves of the voice transmission between Zhuowen and the young sorcerer tribe member. She knew that Zhuowen must have said something to make the young sorcerer tribe member afraid of Zhuowen and did not dare to go overboard. Zhuowen calmly returned to the group. However, many of the foreign tribe members around him kept their distance from Zhuowen. These foreign tribe members knew that Zhuowen had offended the sorcerer tribe member who was leading the group and would not end well. They did not dare to get too close to Zhuowen. Otherwise, they would be hated by the young sorcerer tribe member. That would not be worth it. Zhuowen and Myrtlestar did not mind the alienation of the surrounding non-humankind beings. They slowly followed behind the troop. Fellow cultivator Long, what did you say to the disciple of the sorcerer tribe? He actually didn't cause any trouble for you. Jingshan's spiritual will appeared in Zhuowen's mind. Maybe he thinks I'm not someone to be trifled with. That's why he didn't bother me, Zhuowen said ambiguously. To him, this Jingshan was only a cooperative relationship based on benefits. She was not a friend that he could trust. There were some things that he would not foolishly say out loud. Jingshan frowned slightly. She knew that Zhuowen was not telling the truth, but she did not care too much about it. As long as Zhuowen could participate in the Sorcerer Song Conference, she would be fine. After all, she still needed to rely on Zhuowen to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond and break open the mysterious teleportation formation there. Fellow cultivator Jingshan, I heard that the Sorcerer Song Conference has a limited number of people to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. May I know how many people there are? Zhuowen asked. Speaking of which, he had always known that the Sorcerer Song Conference was a selection to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. However, he never knew how many people would be selected to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. You don't know? Jingshan found it unbelievable that Long Wen did not know this common knowledge that even the non-humankind beings knew. I've been in seclusion all year round, so I'm relatively uninformed. Fellow cultivator Jingshan, please enlighten me, Zhuowen explained. Jingshan nodded and said, in every Sorcerer Song Conference, 12 people will be selected to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Moreover, these 12 people are basically taken up by the 10 great clans, especially the sorcerer tribe. Out of the 12 people, they usually take up 3 or 4 people. Sometimes, they even squeeze out the other geniuses from the 10 great clans. Zhuowen was stunned. The sorcerer tribe was indeed powerful. Before Feng Bumming broke through, he did not have the confidence to get a place in the Sorcerer Song Conference. However, now the sorcerer tribe could take up 3 or 4 places. It had to be said that the sorcerer tribe was indeed the most powerful among the countless clans in the primitive heavenly realm. Fellow cultivator Jingshan, I don't doubt that you can enter the top 12, but how can you be sure that I can get a place? Zhuoan asked in surprise. Haha, since you've obtained a part of Pangu's inheritance, it means that you're definitely not an ordinary person. If you can't even get a place, I feel that you don't deserve to obtain Pangu's inheritance. Why don't you just give me Pangu's inheritance? I don't want to waste it on you, Jing Shan said sarcastically. Zhuoan did not speak. He was thinking about Jing Shan's last sentence. This woman was so confident that he could get a place because she was confident in his Pangu's inheritance. Moreover, Jing Shan was so familiar with Pangu's inheritance. This made Zhuoan think of a possibility. This woman might have also obtained a part of Pangu's inheritance or something related to Pangu. Otherwise, she would not be so familiar with Pangu's inheritance. At this thought, Zhuoan looked at Jing Shan with a grave and serious gaze. If this woman had really obtained a part of Pangu's inheritance, it would not be a good thing for Zhuoan. Soon, the young sorcerer tribe member led the crowd to the vicinity of the sorcerer tribe's main hall. In front of the sorcerer tribe's main hall, there was a huge open space paved with white jade. On this open space, there were many white jade pillars that were almost as tall as the clouds. On the surface of each pillar, there were strange and lifelike carvings of strange beasts. They looked as if they would pounce out of the pillars and attack you at any time. Around the open space and the sorcerer tribe's main hall, there were 12 even larger and more majestic statues of the sorcerer tribe. These 12 statues of the sorcerer tribe had a majestic aura. They were like indomitable gods that supported the sky, making people feel a sense of reverence. When the young sorcerer tribe member led Zhuoan and the 1,000 geniuses from the smaller tribes into the open space, there were already many geniuses from the larger tribes gathered in front of the open space. These geniuses from the larger tribes also noticed the 1,000 geniuses from the smaller tribes brought by the young sorcerer tribe member. They all looked arrogant. After a casual glance, they chatted and laughed among themselves. They did not care about the 1,000 geniuses from the smaller tribes at all. Obviously, in their eyes, the 1,000 geniuses from the smaller tribes were just there to go through the motions. The ones who were really here to compete for the 12 spots in the sorcerer's magical pond were the geniuses from the larger tribes. This is the guarded ground. Wait here for a moment. The tribe leaders of the top 10 tribes and the geniuses they brought are not here yet. Once they are here, our high priest will come out and announce the official start of the Sorcerer Song Festival, the young sorcerer tribe member said calmly. With that, the young sorcerer tribe member looked coldly at Zhuoan and secretly sent a voice transmission. I've already sent you here. You can undo the technique in my spiritual soul now. Once the Sorcerer Song Festival officially starts, I'll undo it for you. Why are you in such a hurry? Zhuoan replied with a cold smile. The young sorcerer tribe member flew into a rage. However, he still controlled his emotions and sent a voice transmission coldly. Remember what you said. Zhuoan ignored the young sorcerer tribe member. In fact, he had only left a spiritual seal in the young sorcerer tribe member's spiritual soul. The spiritual seal would at most weaken the sorcerer tribe member's spiritual soul for a period of time. Furthermore, it would also cause him to feel a piercing pain. It would not affect his spiritual soul too much. Although Zhuoan's spiritual soul was powerful, it was not powerful enough to destroy someone's spiritual soul from a distance. He had only said that to threaten the young sorcerer tribe member. Chapter 33:27 The 10 Great Races. The 3 streams of light were very fast. They arrived at the plaza in the blink of an eye and landed on the empty space in front of the plaza. These 3 streaks of light were 3 mighty flying divine artifacts. After the 3 flying divine weapons stopped in front of the plaza, 3 groups of people walked down from the flying divine weapons. There were only a few people in each of the 3 groups. Zhuoan was very familiar with one of the groups. The leader of this group was the Phoenix Lord, Feng Leluor. In other words, this group represented the Phoenix people. Zhuoan looked coldly at Grand Elder Mu Yu and Third Elder and Yang behind Feng Leluor. These 2 fellows had left the Phoenix people with Mu Chunxue. After the 2 of them returned, Mu Chunxue was nowhere to be found. If there was a chance, Zhuoan would definitely capture these 2 and interrogate them about Mu Chunxue's whereabouts. Of course, the time was not ripe yet. If he rashly went up now, he would be courting death. All of this would have to wait until he obtained the ancestral witch Gu worm and his cultivation had increased greatly. Other than the Phoenix people, he actually knew people from the other two groups. One of the groups was the Moon Wolf Clan's group that he and Crepe Myrtle Star had just arrived at the Witch God City. He still remembered the old man leading the Moon Wolf Clan. It was the Moon Wolf Clan's patriarch, Taiha. The young man and woman standing next to Taiha should be the Moon Wolf Clan's top prodigies. They were called Tu Chen and Chen Ping. Chen Ping, in particular, had mocked Zhuoan at the Witch God City's gate and called him a country bumpkin. Zhuoan had a deep impression of this woman. In the other group, there was a young foreign race that he was familiar with. This foreign race was Shi Pu, who had wanted to make a deal with him at the trade fair. In other words, this group should be the Gao Clan's group. The Gao Clan's patriarch was similar to Shi Pu. He was as thin as a match and had a lifeless appearance. However, he looked much older than Shi Pu, like a dying old man. Brother Darkmarsh, Brother Taiha, long time no see. As soon as Feng Leluo got off the flying divine tool, she cupped her hands and greeted the leaders of the other two teams with great enthusiasm. Taiha, the patriarch of the Moon Wolf Clan, smiled and responded to Feng Leluo politely. On the other hand, the chief of the Corpse Gao Clan, Corpse Yinmarsh, seemed to have not heard Feng Leluo's voice. Instead, he asked meaningfully, Brother Leluo, I heard that the base of the Phoenix people has been destroyed. You still have the mood to come to the shaman song gathering? Your heart is really strong. As soon as he said that, Taiha, who had a calm expression, suddenly looked stunned. He didn't expect that the Phoenix people's nest would be destroyed. He didn't receive any news at all. Haha, Brother Darkmarsh, you might have heard fake news. The Phoenix people are fine. Who dares to attack the base of the Phoenix people? Unless they are tired of living. Feng Leluo laughed. However, Feng Leluo's smile was slightly forced. Even Feng Bumming, the Grand Elder, and the Third Elder, who were following behind her, looked unnatural. Taiha saw some clues. He knew that Corpse Yinmarsh's words were not without reason. It might be true. Otherwise, the expressions of Feng Leluo and the others wouldn't have changed like that. At the same time, Taiha was very curious. Who was it that dared to break into the Phoenix clan's nest and destroy them? This made him very interested in the culprit. Corpse Yinmarsh sneered. Seeing that Feng Leluo didn't admit it, he didn't waste his breath on this matter. Instead, he stood aside and didn't say a word. On the other hand, Feng Leluo and Taiha were whispering to each other and chatting quite harmoniously. After a while, another 4 streams of light flew over from afar. Naturally, they were 4 more flying divine tools. 4 teams walked down from the 4 flying divine tools. Zhuoan basically recognized the races of the 4 teams because he had seen the 4 races in the star battlefield before. Therefore, he was very familiar with the auras of the 4 races. The 4 races were the Space-Time Beast race, the Merfolk race, the Dragon race, and the Black Tiger race. Speaking of which, the race that Zhuoan had killed the most in the star battlefield was the Merfolk race. The Merfolk race's leader Su Long and Eldam Dar, as well as the younger generation's geniuses Sauron, Thorpe, and Moses, were all killed by him. It could be said that the enmity between Zhuoan and the Merfolk race was much greater than the enmity between the other races. It could be said that it was an irreconcilable blood feud. However, the Merfolk race would never have thought that the human youth who had killed so many of their people was now in the shaman race's shaman god city and was looking at them from below. The patriarchs of the 7 races who came were all familiar with each other. They had interacted with each other many times in the past. Therefore, as soon as they arrived at the square, they basically approached the patriarchs they were familiar with and began to chat enthusiastically. The juniors of these large clans were also familiar with each other as they gathered together and chatted in low voices. Shifu followed the corpse race. After arriving at the square, he did not take the initiative to chat with the other juniors. Some of the juniors were also quite fearful of the corpse pups and deliberately avoided them. Shifu did not care. His gaze was basically sweeping back and forth at the back of the square as if he was looking for something. Zhuoan, who was standing at the back, saw Shifu's actions and knew that this fellow was definitely looking for him. Previously at the trade fair, He had brushed away Shifu's face and had already made Shifu bear a grudge. After the shaman song conference began, the first person Shifu looked for would be him. Zhuoan did not deliberately avoid him. Instead, he looked straight at Shifu and quickly attracted Shifu's attention. Shifu looked coldly at Zhuoan and revealed a sinister smile. He said in a low voice, "You have guts. Not only are you not afraid of me, but you also dare to face me. I like prey like you the most. After the shaman song conference begins, I hope you can let me play with you for a while. Don't die so easily." Although Zhuoan couldn't hear what Shifu was whispering, he could roughly understand the content of what Shifu was saying by reading his lips. He sneered in his heart and did not take Shifu's threat to heart. Although Shifu was very strong, it was nothing to the current Zhuoan. If he used his full strength, Shifu would simply be abused by him. If Shifu really encountered him at the shaman song conference, it could only mean that Shifu was unlucky. Time gradually passed. About a quarter of an hour later, 2 more streams of light flew over and landed in front of the square. The 2 races that came this time were the Nine-tailed Fox clan and the Giant Turtle clan of the 10 Great Races. Almost every member of the Nine-tailed Fox clan's group was a young and beautiful fox woman. They were a beautiful sight to behold in the plaza. Among them, Wu Qiutong was the most dazzling existence in this team. After all, Wu Qiutong was the most dazzling genius of the Nine-tailed Fox clan and the most beautiful woman in the clan. On the other hand, the Giant Turtle clan's members were all burly men wearing huge turtle shells. However, these burly men's skin was as rough and shriveled as the bark of a withered tree. The Giant Turtle clan was not good at attacking, but their defensive abilities were definitely far superior to most foreign races. They were natural defensive experts. At that moment, 9 of the 10 great races had already arrived. Only the last race was left, which was the shaman race. Chapter 33-28. The Grand Priest of the Sorcerer Tribe. The crowd did not have to wait for long. When the 9 tribes gathered at the front of the square, the door of the Sorcerer Tribe Hall slowly opened. A group of people walked out of the Sorcerer Tribe Hall slowly. Everyone looked at the group of people walking out of the Sorcerer Tribe Hall. They were immediately attracted by the graceful figure at the front. She was a female sorcerer. Her skin was as white as snow and looked so delicate that it could be broken by the wind. She was dressed in a colorful robe and held a golden scepter in her hand. The moment they saw the female sorcerer tribe member, all the people in the square stopped talking and looked at the female sorcerer tribe member in awe. "She must be the Grand Priest of the Sorcerer Tribe," Zhuoan asked Jingshan, who was not far away. "Yes, she is the Grand Priest of the Sorcerer Tribe, Wu Wuxian. She is also the creator of the highest level of array formation and alchemy in the untainted sky domain. Even the Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe has to give her face," Jingshan said. Hearing this, Zhuoan nodded. He had long heard of the Sorcerer Tribe's High Priest Wu Wuxian. In addition, there was an even more mysterious and powerful Holy Master in the Sorcerer Tribe. The Holy Master rarely appeared in public. Wu Wuxian was in charge of all the matters of the Sorcerer Tribe. Zhuoan had thought that the Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe would appear at the start of the Sorcerer Song Festival. He did not expect Wu Wuxian to host the festival. This disappointed Zhuoan and the other people who had been expecting the Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe. Wu Hongmiao followed behind Wu Wuxian. His eyes were full of confidence and excitement. Zhuoan could tell at a glance that Wu Hongmiao must have used the divine elixir he had traded with Zhuoan to stabilize his mid-terminal master status. There were 2 young disciples of the Sorcerer Tribe who were walking side by side with Wu Hongmiao. What surprised Zhuoan even more was that although the auras of the 2 Sorcerer Tribe disciples were weaker than those of the Sorcerer Tribe disciples, they were not much weaker. They were also at the initial stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension. These 2 people are also geniuses of the Sorcerer Tribe. They are Wu Shuran and Wu Wenbin. These 2 people's cultivations are also at the early stage of Master Tongtian, but because Wu Hongmiao's wizard body has reached 8 stars, he is far more powerful than Wu Shuran and Wu Wenbin. Although there is not much difference between the 3 of them, Wu Hongmiao's strength is stronger than Wu Shuran and Wu Wenbin's. However, now that the Great Shaman Temple has successfully advanced, The gap between him and Wu Xuran and Wu Wenbin has become even greater. Oh right, in the past, Wu Hong Temple, Wu Xuran, and Wu Wenbin were called the three heroes of the sorcerer tribe. Back then, they caused a sensation in the primitive heavenly realm. Perhaps Jing Shan noticed the astonishment in Zhuowen's eyes, but she quickly explained to Zhuowen about the two witch tribe disciples in the witch flood temple. Upon hearing this, Zhuowen nodded his head. He was even more fearful of the sorcerer tribe now. The sorcerer tribe was indeed powerful. Among the young disciples of the sorcerer tribe, they were able to nurture 3 geniuses at the level of Master Tongtian. Didn't that mean that the sorcerer tribe had even more experts at the Master of Heaven level than the Phoenix people? When he thought of this, Zhuowen's gaze became extremely solemn. If the sorcerer tribe was truly far more powerful than the Phoenix people, he doubted that even if his Pangu sacred body broke through to the 8-star level in the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond, would he be able to escape from the encirclement of the experts of the sorcerer tribe? He was not so sure about his answer. At this moment, in front of the square, the tribe leaders of the 9 great tribes all went up to greet Wu Wuxian. Their gazes were filled with fear and respect. High Priest, I remember that the previous Sorcerer Song Conference was hosted by the Sorcerer Tribe's Holy Master. Why isn't the Sorcerer Tribe's Holy Master here this time? The Moon Wolf Tribe's Patriarch, Yi Taihe, voiced his doubts. The tribe leaders of the other tribes had the same doubts. Although the Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe did not usually manage the affairs of the tribe and was a typical hands-off boss. However, for an important event like the Sorcerer Song Gathering, the Holy Master would usually make an appearance to show his presence. However, in this Sorcerer Song Gathering, the Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe did not make an appearance, which naturally made the other tribe leaders very puzzled. This was especially so for Feng Leluo and the other tribe leaders who had gone to the Holy Master of the Sorcerer Tribe for a drink. They felt that something was amiss. Wu Wuxian's eyes flickered and revealed a trace of unnaturalness. However, he quickly concealed it. The main thing is that a very important guest came to the Sorcerer Tribe's main hall today. The Holy Master had to personally entertain him, so he did not have time to preside over the Sorcerer Song Gathering. Wu Wuxian said calmly. A very important guest. In the entire Eldritch Heavenly Realm, there is no guest who can make the Holy Master so cautious. Even if there is, it must be an old monster who has not appeared in the world for a long time. This kind of person rarely appears in the world. Why would he look for the Holy Master at this juncture? Feng Leluo asked in surprise. This guest is not ordinary. Let's not make wild guesses. Now, let's get down to business and preside over the Sorcerer Song Gathering, Wu Wuxian said solemnly. When the tribe leaders saw Wu Wuxian's fearful expression, they were all shocked. In the Eldritch Heavenly Realm, there were very few people who could make Wu Wuxian fearful. It was obvious that the guest that Wu Wuxian was talking about was not a simple person. Wu Wuxian walked to the front of the square and looked around at the foreign tribe members. He said loudly, I am Wu Wuxian, the Grand Priest of the Sorcerer Tribe. Welcome to the Sorcerer Song Gathering organized by the Sorcerer Tribe. The rules of this Sorcerer Song Gathering are the same as the previous years. There are 3 stages, but the situation is completely different. As all of you know, there are only 12 people who can enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. The 3 stages are actually very simple. In the first stage, 500 contestants will be selected. In the second stage, the top 100 contestants will be selected. In the third stage, the top 100 contestants will be selected. Now, I will announce the selection method for the first stage. When Wu Wuxian said this, he deliberately paused. Many of the foreign tribe members in the square held their breaths, waiting for Wu Wuxian to continue. All of you should have seen the stone pillars standing in the middle of the square, right? In the square, there are a total of 500 stone pillars. In each stone pillar, there is a small world. You can choose the stone pillar that you want to enter. Then, you can fight in the small world inside the stone pillar. In the end, the first person who can walk out of the small world inside the stone pillar will obtain a spot in the top 500. Chapter 3329 Inside the Stone Pillar World. I'm sure all of you know the rules of the first stage. From now on, You can choose the stone pillar you want to enter. The way to enter is very simple. All you have to do is place your entry token on the surface of the stone pillar and your aura will be sensed by the stone pillar. At that time, you will enter the small world of the stone pillar. Wu Wuxian said calmly. As soon as Wu Wuxian said this, a commotion broke out among the outsiders in the square. They all looked at the stone pillars around them, obviously choosing which small world to enter. Now, let's begin. You only have 15 minutes. If you still haven't made your choice after 15 minutes, you will be considered to have forfeited. Wu Wuxian added. After hearing this, the foreign races who were still sizing up the stone pillars could no longer remain calm and made their choices. One after another, the foreign races entered the stone pillars they had chosen. Before entering the stone pillars, some of the foreign races couldn't help but look at the geniuses of the 10 great races at the front of the square. They wanted to see which stone pillars the geniuses of the 10 great races had chosen. Then, they could avoid choosing the corresponding stone pillars to avoid encountering the geniuses of the 10 great races. After all, the strength of the geniuses of the 10 great races was widely acknowledged. Even if some of them were geniuses of the 10 great races, they would still be weaker than the geniuses of the 10 great races. In any case, in the first stage, they would try their best to avoid encountering the geniuses of the 10 great races. However, to their disappointment, the geniuses of the 10 great races still stood at the front of the square, unmoving. Obviously, the geniuses of the 10 great races were planning to leave their stone pillars for last. Zhuo Wen watched as more and more aliens entered the stone pillars. He greeted Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign and walked in the opposite direction of Crepe Myrtle Star. Naturally, he couldn't choose the same stone pillar as the Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign. After all, there could only be one winner in each stone pillar. If he and the Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign chose the same stone pillar, wouldn't one of them be eliminated? At the same time, Zhuoan didn't want to face the geniuses of the 10 great races so early. Therefore, he chose a stone pillar in a very remote location. In front of the square, among the Corpse Ghost Clan's troops, Shifu stared at the stone pillar that Zhuoan had entered with a mocking smile on his face. Shifu, do you know that young man from a small clan? Corpse Yinmarsh had long noticed that Shifu's gaze had been fixed on Zhuoan. He couldn't help but ask curiously. I've met him once. He's a rather stubborn ant. The day before yesterday at the trade fair, this ant refused my deal and even threatened me, Shifu said sinisterly. How bold of you. You even dare to provoke our Corpse Ghoul clan. However, he is destined to be an ant. There is no need for you to make a move. Corpse, you, go into that stone pillar and properly entertain that ant that provoked Corpse Pup. Corpse Yinmarsh said without much care. A young man who was also as thin as a match walked out from the Corpse Ghoul clan's team. This young man was slightly shorter than the Corpse Pups. His face was ferocious and terrifying, and the stench of corpses from his body was very strong. Shiyu's aura was also very powerful, but compared to Shifu, it was much weaker. His cultivation base was only half a step away from heaven ascension. Even so, Shiyu's reputation was extremely great. Even though Shiyu's cultivation base wasn't high and was only half a step away from heaven ascension, he was a genius amongst the younger generation of the Corpse Ghoul clan that was only inferior to Shifu. Moreover, his methods of attack were extremely strange. Supposedly, Shiyu had forcefully resisted an initial stage Heaven Ascension Lord with his cultivation base all those years ago, and he'd even injured that initial stage Heaven Ascension Lord. Even though Shiyu had paid an extremely great price at that time, this battle had shaken the entire primitive Heaven domain. Many clans had found out that besides Shifu, the Corpse Ghoul clan had such a formidable member of the younger generation, Shiyu, because of this battle. Shiyu, don't let that ant die too easily. Your attainments in torturing others are much greater than mine. Shifu spoke indifferently. Shiyu laughed strangely and said, Patriarch, senior brother Shifu, don't worry. Shiyu won't disappoint you. I'll definitely utilize everything I've learned in my lifetime and make that ant experience a fate worse than death. After he finished speaking, Shiyu directly flashed towards Zhuowen's stone pillar and quickly entered it. The number of foreign clans in the square quickly thinned out. Most of them had already entered the stone pillars that they'd chosen. At this moment, The geniuses of the top 10 clans, who hadn't made any moves before, also moved. They all very tacitly chose their own stone pillars. After all, the Sorcerer Song gathering had just begun, and they didn't want to meet each other so soon. After all, anyone who went up against each other would have the risk of being eliminated. The moment Zhuowen opened his eyes, he gathered all the energy in his body and circulated it around him. His divine consciousness also surged out like a tide to guard against any sudden danger. At this moment, Zhuowen finally had a clear view of his surroundings. He saw that in this world, the ground was like black iron, and it had a metallic luster. Meanwhile, the sky was filled with dense black iron chains that crisscrossed one after another. These black iron chains were like the largest chains in the world, and they locked this world up. Zhuowen had a feeling that being in this world was like being imprisoned in an extremely huge prison. The place where he was standing was a mountain peak, and he was standing on the peak. Suddenly, the entry token on his waist began to flash, and the frequency of the flashes became faster and faster. When the frequency of the flashes reached its peak, several ear-piercing sounds could be heard from behind the mountain peak, and they all blasted towards Zhuowen's back. They were 3 foreign clans. Judging from their auras, they should be from the same clan. Consider yourself unlucky to have encountered the 3 of us. Just die. One of the foreign clans laughed complacently. Unfortunately, just as he finished speaking, Zhuowen attacked. Zhuowen quickly threw out 3 punches, and each punch was like a mountain falling from the sky, filled with a terrifying feeling of heaviness. Before the smiles on the 3 foreign clans' faces faded, they were hit by the 3 punches. They didn't even have time to scream before they were blasted into a bloody mist. After killing the 3 foreign clans in an instant, Zhuowen jumped down the mountain peak and disappeared from the mountain range like a bolt of black lightning. The mountain peak was too high, and he stood on top of it. Therefore, he had to find a place to clear up the situation first. As for the 3 foreign clans who were killed by Zhuowen in an instant, they were teleported out of the stone pillar the moment they were killed. They looked at the stone pillar in front of them in a daze. They knew that they had been eliminated. However, they couldn't accept that they had just entered not long ago, and they hadn't even seen the world inside the stone pillar clearly, and they were already eliminated. This was too unfair. Chapter 33:30. Wu Wuxian's concerns were when stopped in the middle of a metal forest. The trees in this forest seemed to be made of metal, emitting a rather bright luster. Zhuowen stopped in a huge tree trunk, completely concealing his aura. On his way to this metal forest, he encountered several attacks from foreign races. Every time the outsiders launched a surprise attack, the medallion hanging from his waist would flash with blinding light. Zhuowen knew that when 2 parties with entry tokens approached a certain distance, they would be sensed. This was a warning of danger, and at the same time, a sign that he would be exposed. Zhuowen did not know how many foreign races there were in this stone pillar world, but he knew that it was definitely not more than 3 digits. Moreover, along the way, he also discovered that the area of the stone pillar world was not large. If he wanted to search this world, he should be able to search the entire world in 3 days. Because Zhuowen had entered the stone pillar world earlier, he did not know whether the geniuses of the 10 great races had chosen the same stone pillar as him. Even if the geniuses of the other 10 great races did not choose this stone pillar, the Shifu of the corpse ghost race had some grudges with him, and it was very likely that he would choose this stone pillar. However, Zhuowen was not afraid. Entering this world was a rare opportunity for him to breathe. He didn't want to waste his time hunting other foreign races. He planned to use this time to completely condense his soul sword intent. Because he knew that instead of wasting time looking for other foreign races, it was better to wait for the last foreign race to come to him after the battle. This would save him a lot of trouble. This metal forest was considered the edge of this world, and it was also an extremely remote place. He knew that it was very difficult for ordinary foreign races to break into this place. Unless they searched every corner of this world, they would not notice this metal forest. In the metal forest, Zhuowen chose the thickest metal tree, made a large hole in the trunk, and set up a simple cave dwelling. Then, He set up a powerful shielding formation outside the cave abode and set up a surveillance formation several miles around the cave abode. Once someone entered within a radius of a few miles, the monitoring array formation would be activated. At that time, Zhuowen would know in advance. After doing all this, Zhuowen entered the cave with peace of mind and began to concentrate on condensing the Divine Soul Sword intent. This Divine Soul Sword intent was one of his major killing moves. He had to condense as many of them as possible. This would be of great benefit to him when he competed for a spot later on. On the metal wasteland hundreds of thousands of kilometers away from the metal jungle, Shi Yu was walking slowly. His entire body was shrouded in a dense grey corpse aura. Both of Corpse Yu's hands were grabbing onto an alien race member and dragging them on the ground. However, the two outsiders weren't dead. Instead, they were in a half-dead state. Their heads were bleeding, and when they were dragged on the ground by the Corpse Youths, they left long bloody marks on the ground as they screamed in agony. "Corpse You, kill us quickly. Hurry up and kill us. It's too painful." One of the outsiders screamed. His eyes were bloodshot, and he wanted nothing more than to die. "Kill you? That's too easy for you. If you really die after I kill you, I don't mind killing you. However, if you don't really die, then it's meaningless. I'd rather let you enjoy a period of pain," Shi Yu said with a hideous smile. "Shi Yu, you'll die a horrible death. You Corpse Gao clan are all perverts. A bunch of people who are neither human nor ghost," the alien race member on Shi Yu's right said with a venomous gaze. Shi Yu stopped and swung his right hand. The alien race member on his right was thrown to the ground. The alien race member was in so much pain that he groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked extremely miserable. "You should be from the Mole clan. How dare you insult our Corpse Gao clan? Do you know the price you have to pay for insulting the Corpse Gao clan?" Shi Yu said in a low voice. The alien race member didn't speak anymore. His entire body was invaded by the corpse aura. He was in so much pain that even speaking took a lot of effort. "Haha, I've decided to grant you death. However, the Mole clan doesn't need to exist anymore. After this Sorcerer Song conference, your Mole clan will be wiped out. The reason for your clan's extermination is you, a traitor." After Shi Yu finished speaking, he clenched his right hand. The alien race member screamed in agony as his body started to fester. "No. Lord Shi Yu, I was wrong. Please don't attack my clan. It's all my fault. If you want to kill me, then kill me. After this, I'll come to you and beg for forgiveness." The alien race member begged Shi Yu as he screamed in agony. Unfortunately, Corpse Yu merely sneered as he watched this alien being completely fester into dregs. The alien race member on his left was terrified. He didn't dare to say a word. Trouble came from the mouth. It was a small matter if he was killed, but if he was implicated in the clan behind him, then he would be a sinner. "I don't want to play anymore. You can go to hell too." Shi Yu's gaze was cold. He clenched his right hand, and the alien race member on his left also festered and died. "This world isn't big. I didn't see Long when on my way here. It seems like he hid the moment he came in. However, I'm not in a hurry. I'll search slowly. After I find Long Wen, I'll make him suffer more than death." Haha. Shi Yu laughed coldly. He had heard about Zhuowen's fake name from Shifu. Back then, Zhuowen had contradicted Shifu. Naturally, Shifu had investigated Zhuowen and found out about Zhuowen's fake name. Only half a day had passed. Beside the most conspicuous stone pillar in the square, alien race members were constantly being sent out. When the last alien race member was sent out, the stone pillar shattered. A slender figure walked out slowly from the shattered stone pillar like a king returning. The Grand Priest, Wu Wuxian, who was standing at the front of the square, looked satisfied when he saw the figure. The figure was the most powerful genius of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Xingyuan. At that moment, Wu Xingyuan's gaze was emotionless. He walked out slowly like a god who had returned victorious from hell. No wonder he's the most powerful genius of the sorcerer tribe. This Wu Xingyuan is terrifyingly powerful. In just half a day, he eliminated everyone and obtained a spot in the top 500. In front of the square, The leaders of the other 9 tribes looked at Wu Xingyuan in shock. They had thought that the contestants who entered the competition would take at least a day. They had not expected Wu Xingyuan to come out in half a day. This speed was too fast. Congratulations, Grand Priest. Wu Xingyuan's future is limitless. I'm afraid he can lead the sorcerer tribe to the peak of prosperity. The surrounding leaders also congratulated the Grand Priest, Wu Wuxian. Their eyes were filled with envy. Wu Wuxian was also very satisfied. It was rare for the sorcerer tribe to produce a genius like Wu Xingyuan. In his opinion, Wu Wuxian was the most promising genius to surpass the sorcerer tribe's holy leader. He was the best candidate for the position. However, Wu Wuxian thought of the mysterious guest that the sorcerer tribe's holy leader was receiving. He could not help but frown. The mysterious guest was very powerful. It was said that even the sorcerer tribe's holy leader was defeated by him with one slap. The sorcerer tribe's holy leader was subdued. Before Wu Wuxian walked out of the sorcerer tribe's main hall, the sorcerer tribe's holy leader had sent a message to him. The mysterious guest was most likely a terrifying expert who was at least at the 4th decay of Heaven's Blight. The entire sorcerer tribe was no match for this mysterious guest. Chapter 33-31. Come out. After Wu Xingyuan walked out of the stone pillar, he slowly walked to Wu Wuxian's side. His eyes were emotionless, like an ancient well. Obviously, Wu Xingyuan was not surprised that he was the first to come out. Before his breakthrough, among the younger generation of the Eldritch Heavenly Domain, there were indeed a few who could compete with him and make him feel difficult to deal with. However, after his breakthrough, his horizons had broadened too much. The few geniuses that he felt were difficult to deal with in the past were nothing in his eyes. As long as he wanted to, he could defeat them with a flip of his hand. In this sorcerer song gathering, it was an expected fact that he was first. No one could shake it. Another half a day passed, and another stone pillar shattered. Waves of black gas spread out from the broken pieces. A figure as thin as a matchstick and full of a strange dark aura slowly walked out. It's Shi Pu from the Corpse Gowl clan. Brother Enma, your Corpse Gowl clan has really cultivated a good junior. The fact that Shi Pu is the second to come out proves that his strength is definitely one of the best among this group of geniuses. Many patriarchs looked at the second Shi Pu in amazement and could not help but discuss spiritedly. Shi Enma looked at the approaching Shi Pu and listened to the compliments of the other patriarchs. The corners of his mouth curled into a condescending smile. Shi Enma's attitude made the patriarchs of the other 10 major clans a little unhappy. They also knew that the patriarchs of the other major clans saw the potential in Shi Pu and came to curry favor with him. However, as competitors, they were naturally in a bad mood when they saw the other patriarchs fawning over Shi Enma. Shi Pu saw Wu Xingyuan, who was already standing beside Wu Wuxian, at a glance, and his face suddenly turned ugly. As soon as he entered the stone pillar world, he immediately released his divine sense and began to kill in all directions. He wanted to get rid of all his opponents in the stone pillar world as quickly as possible. His speed was indeed very fast, and he didn't stop killing. It only took him a day to search through the entire world of stone pillars and kill all the opponents hiding inside. He thought that he should be the first to come out of the stone pillar world after spending a day. But he didn't expect Wu Xingyuan to be faster than him. This made Shi Fu feel very unbalanced. At the same time, 2 more pillars exploded and 2 more figures walked out from within. Yi Taihe, the patriarch of the Moon Wolf clan and the patriarch of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, couldn't help but smile when they saw the 2 figures. The 2 figures were none other than the genius of the Moon Wolf tribe, Tu Qian, and the genius of the Nine-Tailed Fox tribe, Wu Qiutong. Shi Fu walked to Corpse Yin Marsh's side and asked solemnly, Patriarch, when did Wu Xingyuan come out? Half a day earlier than you. Shi Yin Marsh glanced at Shi Fu and said indifferently. Shi Fu was silent. He was not convinced. Wu Xingyuan was half a day faster than him. How did he do it? Did Wu Xingyuan cheat? Shi Fu, this Wu Xingyuan is not simple. You'd better not be impulsive and challenge Wu Xingyuan in this sorcerer song gathering. After all, there were 12 spots. If you lose a spot because you challenged Wu Xingyuan, I will make you live a life worse than death, Corpse Yinmarsh said coldly. Shifu couldn't help but tremble when he heard this. He knew very well how ruthless the patriarch next to him was. He was definitely the kind of guy who would do what he said and was especially ruthless. Thinking of Corpse Yinmarsh's series of terrifying means, Shifu quickly extinguished the idea of challenging Wu Xingyuan. Patriarch, don't worry. Shifu will definitely prioritize the interests of the Corpse clan. I won't act recklessly, Shifu said solemnly. Corpse Yinmarsh nodded with satisfaction and said, yes, as long as you perform well enough, I will naturally reward you. Moreover, the baptism of the power of the ancestral sorcerer in the ancestral sorcerer magical pond is also very beneficial to you. You can't miss such a rare opportunity. Shifu nodded and assured Corpse Yinmarsh again. Only then did Corpse Yinmarsh feel completely relieved. Tu Qian and Wu Qiutong also returned to their respective teams. Another 2 to 4 hours passed. The geniuses of the 10 major clans also rushed out of their respective pillars one after another. Among them, Feng Bumming of the Phoenix people was the 9th contestant to come out of the stone pillar. Although his ranking was relatively low, Feng Leluor was still quite satisfied with Feng Bumming's performance. She did not have high expectations for Feng Bumming. As long as Feng Bumming could obtain a place, that would be enough. At the same time that Feng Bumming walked out of the stone pillar, another stone pillar cracked open. Many patriarchs present thought that the person who came out should also be a genius of the 10 major clans. However, when they saw who it was, they were all stunned. This was because the person who came out was not any genius of the 10 major clans. He did not even belong to those geniuses of the major clans. He was actually a genius of a minor clan. This minor clan genius was a female foreign clan member who wore a black tights and a black veil on her face. She was Jing Shan, who had previously cooperated with Zhuoan. After Jing Shan came out, she only glanced at the somewhat dumbfounded patriarchs of the major clans before she walked to the side and waited. The 9 geniuses of the 10 major clans who had come out, including Wu Xingyuan, all looked at Jing Shan at the same time. Their eyes were also full of doubts. In their impression, it was already a miracle for a minor clan genius to be able to last until the end in the stone pillar world, let alone come out so early. However, the female foreign clan member in front of them did it, and she was the 10th person to come out. This ant from the minor clan is quite lucky. The opponents in the stone pillar that she is in are probably ants similar to her, they are just slightly stronger ants. Shi Yu was very arrogant. He simply looked down on Jing Shan. In other words, in his eyes, none of the geniuses from the minor clans were experts. All of them were trash. Wu Xingyuan looked at Jing Shan from top to bottom. He did not seem to notice any clues and frowned slightly. However, he soon ignored it and closed his eyes to rest. Jing Shan did not cause a big commotion. After all, there were not many strong opponents in the stone pillar that she was in. After Jing Shan came out, her gaze fell on the stone pillar that Zhuoan and Crepe Myrtle Star had entered. Seeing that the two of them had not come out, she frowned slightly. With her divine instinct, she could feel that Zhuoan and Crepe Myrtle Star were not simple. They were a great threat to her. Originally, she had deliberately slowed down in the stone pillar world, thinking that Zhuoan and Crepe Myrtle Star would come out before her. However, she did not expect that she would be the first to come out. These two fellows are really patient, Jing Shan muttered to herself. In the following period of time, more and more geniuses came out of the stone pillars. There were even more geniuses who were eliminated. Most of the geniuses who were eliminated were taken away by their respective clan leaders and left the square. That was the rule of the sorcerer tribe. The losers could not continue to stay in the square. Crepe Myrtle Star also came out of the stone pillar world smoothly. Naturally, he had advanced. However, when Crepe Myrtle Star entered the stone pillar world, he remembered Zhuoan's words. He had to keep a low profile and not be too high profile in order to avoid being exposed. Therefore, Crepe Myrtle Star's battle in the stone pillar world dragged on for a long time before he finished off all his opponents and came out. Crepe Myrtle Star looked around and found that Zhuoan had not come out yet. However, He did not approach Jingshan when he saw her. Instead, he stood in a corner casually. Crepe Myrtle Star's appearance attracted the attention of many geniuses from the major clans. They could tell that Crepe Myrtle Star was from a minor clan. He had also advanced successfully. However, Crepe Myrtle Star did not attract much attention. Many geniuses from other clans subconsciously thought that Crepe Myrtle Star was lucky to be able to advance in the first stage. Chapter 33-32. Shiyu. As time passed, more and more geniuses from the large clans emerged from their respective stone pillars. There were only a few stone pillars left. In the Corpse Gao clan's team, Corpse Yinmarsh frowned slightly and said in a low voice with slight displeasure, "Why is Shiyu so slow? It's been more than 3 days and he still hasn't come out." Shipiyu's eyes flickered as he said in a low voice, "Patriarch, don't be anxious. I think that ant called Long Wen must have hidden himself in an extremely secluded place as soon as he entered the world of stone pillars. You also know that junior brother Shiyu is not good at movement techniques. According to my estimation, with junior brother Shiyu's speed, it would take him at least 3 days to search the entire world of stone pillars. Now that 3 days have passed, I think junior brother Shiyu should be out soon." Corpse Yinmarsh nodded. Like Shiyu, he never doubted that Shiyu would fail in the first round. According to Corpse Yinmarsh's estimation, Shiyu had a high chance of competing for the top 12 spots. Although the probability was not high, there was still some hope. In the world of stone pillars, in a temporary cave abode built from tree trunks in the metal forest, Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was filled with excitement. In these 3 days, he had been condensing the soul sword essence in his divine soul every moment. Finally, he had successfully condensed the soul sword essence, which was originally just a sword embryo, into a piercingly sharp sword. In other words, the true complete form of the soul sword essence had been completely formed. The power of this soul sword essence was extremely terrifying. Although he had not tested it yet, with the current power of his divine soul, the soul sword essence he condensed was enough to instantly kill an early-stage Tongtian master and severely injure an intermediate-stage Tongtian master. Moreover, Zhuowen saw the limitless possibilities of the soul sword essence. As long as his divine soul was tempered more and more, the soul sword essence he could condense would also become more and more terrifying. In the future, it would not be a problem for him to instantly kill an advanced stage Tongtian master. Just as Zhuowen was immersed in the endless reverie of the future, he discovered that the surveillance formation he had set up several miles away had been activated. Zhuowen collected his thoughts and waved his sleeve. Instantly, an image appeared in the air in front of him. In this image, Shiyu was in the middle of a metal forest. More than 10 alien corpses floated around Shiyu, and black smoke surged like waves. Zhuowen knew that the dozen or so corpses were not real. They were just substitutes created by the stone pillar world. However, Zhuowen was somewhat disgusted. This corpse you clearly had the habit of treating the corpses of its enemies as spoils of war. You've killed someone, yet you don't want to let go of his corpse. That's too much. Zhuowen knew that if the corpse you had found this metal forest, it was likely that all the foreign tribes in the stone pillar world had been wiped out by him. Thinking of this, Zhuowen retracted the great array around the cave dwelling and stepped out. In the dense forest a few miles away from Zhuowen's temporary cave abode, Shiyu's eyes were filled with frustration. He had almost searched the entire stone pillar world and killed all the other foreign tribes, but he still couldn't find Long Wen. Long Wen, this is the last place in the stone pillar world. I don't believe that I can't find you here. When I find you, I'll torture you slowly until you kneel in front of me and beg for death. Shiyu roared furiously. You want me to kneel in front of you and beg for death? I'm afraid it's a little difficult. However, it's possible for you to kneel in front of me and beg for death. Suddenly, a mocking voice was heard, and Shiyu couldn't help but stop in his tracks. Shiyu looked at the young man in front of him and was stunned at first. Then, he laughed out loud, and his laughter became more and more arrogant. He said, So you're here. You coward, you've been hiding for so long. You're finally willing to come out. You've killed everyone else. What surprised Shiyu was that not only did Zhuowen not show any signs of fear, He even asked Shiyu about the massacre in a serious manner. Hihi, of course. You're the finale. However, since you've been hiding for so long, I won't let you die so easily. I'll torture you slowly. Yes, I'll break your arms and legs first, then dig out your eyes, deafen your ears, and peel off your skin. Ah. Shiyu had only spoken halfway when his chest was struck by an enormous force, and then he was blasted flying and smashed heavily onto the ground. At the instant he hadn't reacted, Zhuowen's right foot stomped heavily on his chest, and a powerful force blasted onto his body, causing Shiyu to be unable to get up at all and could only struggle passively. You. How are you so strong? Shiyu was in disbelief. Zhuowen completely ignored him and said indifferently, You said earlier that you'll break my limbs, seize my senses, and peel off my skin. All right, I'll try all of that on you. What do you think? Shiyu was stunned, and then he felt excruciating pain. He shrieked, and his limbs were already broken without him knowing, and blood was gushing out. However, Shiyu's shrieks stopped abruptly, and his senses were also seized by Zhuowen at that instant. Zhuowen looked at Shiyu, who was in a daze, but he didn't peel off his skin. Shiyu's entire body was shriveled like a mummy, and his body was full of maggots. Looking at him was disgusting, and he was really not interested in doing such a thing. Moreover, with his temperament, he wouldn't do something as cruel as skinning someone. Thinking of this, Zhuowen pointed his right sword finger in between Shiyu's eyebrows. Shiyu's soul was shattered, and he couldn't be more dead. The moment Shiyu was killed, the entire stone pillar world began to shake violently. Then, the space of the stone pillar world began to collapse, and the dense black chains that bound the sky even broke apart. A pushing force acted on Zhuowen's body, and Zhuowen was pushed out involuntarily. When Zhuowen's feet landed on the ground, he realized that he was already in the square of the guarded ground, and in front of him was the majestic hall of the sorcerer tribe. Behind him was the stone pillar. However, this stone pillar had already been shattered into pieces. What? Who is this person? He came out last, and Shiyu was actually eliminated? That's impossible. We were all killed by Shiyu. This guy doesn't seem strong, and I don't know him either. He should be from a small tribe, right? He got the last slot. The moment Zhuowen appeared, there were more than 10 foreign tribes standing around him. Zhuowen recognized these foreign tribes as well. They were the other foreign tribes that he entered from the stone pillar, including Shiyu. Chapter 33-33. Change of mind. Patriarch, Shiyu has come out. He should have advanced. At the front of the square, Shiyu's gaze descended onto the stone pillar Shiyu was on. At this moment, Shiyu had already been transported out. However, Shiyu was slightly dazed and stood on the spot in a daze. Shiyu didn't notice Shiyu's abnormality as his gaze was filled with confidence. Sha'inma nodded as his gaze descended onto the stone pillar behind Shiyu. He noticed that the stone pillar actually didn't shatter, and he couldn't help but frown as he had a trace of a bad premonition in his heart. Rumble. At the instant Sha'inma frowned, the stone pillar behind Shiyu shattered. A figure slowly walked out from the shattered stone pillar. It's that Long Wen. He won. Sha'inma was stunned. Patriarch, you're thinking too much. That Long Wen is merely an ant. The difference between him and junior brother Shiyu is like the difference between the clouds and mud. Ha ha. Shiyu laughed confidently as his gaze descended onto the stone pillar Shiyu was on. However, when Shiyu saw Zhuowen walk out from the shattered stone pillar, he couldn't help but be stunned. The remaining words seemed to have been choked off, and he couldn't speak anymore. Because he saw Zhuowen walk out from the shattered stone pillar as well. He was clearly aware of what this represented. It represented that the final victory belonged to Zhuowen. This fellow. How is this possible? Did he play a dirty trick inside? Shiyu's gaze was gloomy as he spoke. Sha'inma was filled with depression as well. He truly couldn't figure out why Shiyu would actually lose to a young man from a small clan. Could it be an accident? Shiyu, go over and ask. Sha'inma said coldly. Shiyu nodded and then walked towards Zhuowen and Shiyu. Shiyu's actions immediately drew the attention of many geniuses from the other large clans on the square. As a genius from the corpse clan of the 10 great clans, Shi Piyu's strength was extremely formidable. Back then, Shi Piyu had once fought with Wu Xingyuan who hadn't broken through. No one knew the outcome, but Shi Piyu was heavily injured, and Wu Xingyuan was injured as well. Although Wu Xingyuan's injuries weren't as severe as Shi Piyu's, this also proved that Shi Piyu's strength wasn't weak. The Shifu's actions also attracted the attention of Wu Xingyuan, Wu Qiutong, and the other geniuses of the 10 great clans. Wu Xingyuan followed the direction of the corpse pup and saw Zhuowen. He was astonished. He recognized Zhuowen because he was the one who had traded the Supreme Harmony Spiritual Energy Pill to him at the trade fair. The Supreme Harmony Spiritual Qi Pill was a mid-ascension realm divine pill. Its main function was to help early-stage ascension realm cultivators break through to the mid-ascension realm, and also to strengthen their foundation. It was all thanks to Zhuowen's Supreme Harmony Spiritual Energy Pill that Wu Xingyuan was able to thoroughly consolidate the realm that he had just advanced. When he saw the Supreme Harmony Spiritual Energy Pill, he was so excited that he forgot to ask for Zhuowen's name. By the time he consolidated his cultivation base, the Sorcerer Song Conference had already begun, so he had no time to look for Zhuowen. He did not expect to see Zhuowen here. At the same time, Wu Xingyuan was also curious as to why this young man, who was obviously from a small clan, would have such a precious divine pill like the Supreme Harmony Spiritual Energy Pill. The foreign clans who were originally surrounding Zhuowen were shocked when they saw the corpse pup walking over and hurriedly made way. The corpse pup strode over and came to Shi Yu's side. At this moment, Shi Yu saw the corpse pup coming over and hurriedly bowed. He lowered his head and did not dare to look at the corpse pup. "Senior brother, I've let you and the patriarch down," Shi Yu said in shame. The corpse pup glanced at Shi Yu coldly and said, "I'll deal with you later." After saying that, the corpse pup looked at Zhuowen with murderous eyes and said, "Long Wen, you're just a disciple from a small clan. How could you possibly have the strength to defeat the disciples from other large clans and obtain this slot? You must have cheated in this stone pillar world, right? Tell me the truth, and perhaps I'll spare your worthless life." Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. This corpse pup actually had the intention to kill him. This was the guarded ground. This corpse pup was so fearless and actually threatened to kill him. It was truly too arrogant. The first stage of the test was set by the witch race. If you say that I cheated, aren't you saying that there's a problem with the arrangement of the witch race in the Witch Song Conference? You're looking down on the witch race, right? Zhuowen said coldly. The corpse pup raised his brows but suddenly cupped his hands at Wu Wuxian in front of the square and said, "Honorable High Priest of the witch race, I have no intention of offending the witch race. It's just that this ant comes from a small clan and has no background. It's really strange that he could obtain a slot for the first stage. Furthermore, although this child comes from a small clan, he has many tricks up his sleeve. At the trade fair the day before the Witch Song Conference, this child once took out a Heaven Ascension Divine Pill to exchange for a Blazing Phoenix Exquisite Leaf, an ant that can take out a Heaven Ascension Divine Pill. Although his strength is not strong, his methods are definitely unique. I didn't wrong this ant." The moment the corpse pup said that, many foreign clans were in an uproar. This young man from a small clan could actually take out a Heaven Ascension Divine Pill. How rich was this guy? One had to know that even the top geniuses of the 10 great clans generally might not be able to take out this kind of divine pill. Back then, the reason why Wu Qiutong could take out a Heaven Ascension Divine Pill was also obtained by a fortuitous encounter. Furthermore, there was only that one. And the Divine Pill that Zhuowen took out was even a middle-stage Heaven Ascension Divine Pill. It was of a higher grade than the Divine Pill that Wu Qiutong took out. Anyone knew that a guy who could give out such a precious Divine Pill definitely had a lot of good stuff on him. Even the patriarchs of the 10 great clans also revealed looks of surprise. They also did not think that a mere young man from a small clan could actually take out a Heaven Ascension Divine Pill. Zhuowen's face darkened. He looked at Shi Pup coldly, killing intent already rising in his heart. This corpse pup did it on purpose. This way, he would probably become the target of public criticism. After all, he was not a genius of the 10 great clans and did not have a powerful faction backing him up. There would probably be quite a number of clans eyeing him covetously. I beg the high priest of the sorcerer tribe to let Long Wen and Shi Yu fight again. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, this boy will definitely not play any more trick. Shi Pup cupped his fists and said. Shi Yu's face suddenly changed. He was just about to remind Shi Pup that he was indeed no match for Zhuowen when he was interrupted by Shi Pup. Shi Pup did not care about Shi Yu's ugly expression at all. In his opinion, Zhuowen definitely did not defeat Shi Yu with his true ability. As soon as Shi Pup said that, many of the foreign clans around nodded. They also felt that Zhuowen's victory was too strange. After all, there was a genius from the Corpse Ghost clan like Shi Yu in the Stone Pillar world that he was in. He was a top genius in the Corpse Ghost clan that was second only to Shi Pup and was very powerful. Haha, High Priest, actually, I am also somewhat unconvinced. I believe in Shi Yu's strength and hope that you can give Shi Yu a chance. Shi Yinma also spoke up. Wu Wuxian glanced at Shi Yinma and nodded. In that case, give Shi Yu another chance. The two of you will have a showdown in this square. In the Moonwolf clan's team, Chen Ping stood beside Tu Chen. She also saw Zhuowen and recognized that Zhuowen was that country bumpkin she met at the Sorcerer God City's city gates back then. This country bumpkin's luck is pretty good, to actually be able to obtain the qualifications to enter the inner city. Furthermore, he even used some unknown method to obtain the quota for the first stage. Haha, but his luck has also come to an end. Fighting with Shi Yu openly, this country bumpkin is dead for sure, Chen Ping said with a cold smile. Chapter 33-34. Insta-killing Shi Yu. When Wu Wuxian agreed to Zhuowen and Shi Yu to battle again, practically all the foreign races in the plaza thought that this Zhuowen was dead for sure. Wu Xingyuan stood beside Wu Wuxian and watched this scene with his brows furrowed slightly. Speaking of which, he was still quite grateful to Zhuowen for the Supreme Harmony spiritual energy pill. If it wasn't for this divine pill, he wouldn't have been able to completely consolidate his cultivation in just a short day. If Wu Wuxian did not speak, he would definitely step forward to interfere. Unfortunately, Wu Wuxian personally promised this battle. If he interfered, it would undoubtedly be slapping Wu Wuxian's face. If this Long Wen can't beat Shi Yu, I can make a move to help. At least, I can save his life. Wu Xingyuan thought in his heart. He was someone who did not like to owe others favors. Although he and Zhuowen had a normal transaction, he knew that the value of the Grand Peace Spirit Energy Pill that Zhuowen took out was much more precious than the exquisite Blaze Phoenix Leaf. Speaking of which, it was him who took a huge advantage. Of course, if Wu Xingyuan knew how important the exquisite Blaze Phoenix Leaf was to Zhuowen, he would not feel that he took advantage of it. Wu Xingyuan precisely had this mentality, so he subconsciously thought that he took advantage of Zhuowen and felt that he owed Zhuowen a favor. At this moment, a large group of foreign races gathered near the stone pillar that Zhuowen was at to watch the show. And Shi Fu's eyes were filled with cruelty. In his view, this Long Wen would lose without a doubt in the battle with Shi Yu. Moreover, he was dead for sure. Since the High Priest has already agreed, then the two of you can battle again. The battlefield is here. Shi Fu pointed to a rather spacious open space in front and said to Zhuowen and Shi Yu. Zhuowen glanced at Shi Fu coldly and took a step, very straightforwardly arriving at the open space. Rather, it was that Shi Yu who was cowering, his eyes full of hesitation. He had fought with Zhuowen in the Stone Pillar world and was defeated in one move. He knew that he was no match for Zhuowen. But now, he didn't dare to not fight because this opportunity was won by Shi Pu and Corpsean Marsh. If he chickened out, he would be dead for sure, and he would die very miserably. After all, Corpse Pups were known for their cruelty in the Gao clan. Although Long Wen is strong, it's still impossible for him to kill me in an instant. As long as I can't defeat him, I'll immediately withdraw from the battle and surrender. At that time, senior brother Shi Fu will definitely find an excuse to stop Long Wen. At that time, I won't have to die. Senior martial brother Shi Fu and Patriarch also know that I did my best, so they won't do anything to me. As Shi Yu thought to himself, he walked to the opposite side of Zhuowen and faced Zhuowen from afar. Shi Pu crossed his arms in front of his chest. His mouth was filled with a sinister grin as he imagined the scene of Zhuoan being torn apart by Shi Yu. Let's begin. Junior Martial Brother Shi Yu, don't go easy on him. Let this ant experience the strength of our Gao clan and let him know that playing dirty will never work before absolute strength, Shi Yu said to Shi Yu. Shi Yu forced a smile. He didn't dare tell Shi Yu about Zhuoan now. After all, if he spoke now, it would be slapping Shi Yu's face. It was obviously much better to speak after Shi Yu was defeated. Shi Yu, are you sure you want to fight me? It's not like you haven't seen my strength in the stone pillar world. Zhuoan stood opposite Shi Yu and ridiculed. Shi Yu's expression was unsightly as he said coldly, "You were completely lucky in the stone pillar world. I underestimated you too much." Shi Yu could only answer unyieldingly. Otherwise, wouldn't he be embarrassing the Gao clan in front of Shi Yu and corpse pups? All right, I'll only use one move. If you're able to receive this move of mine, then it'll be my loss, Zhuoan said indifferently. As soon as these words came out, the surrounding crowd burst into an uproar. Wasn't this Long Wen too arrogant? Facing the genius of the Gao clan, Shi Yu, he actually threatened that he would only use one move. Was he looking down on Shi Yu? Shi Yu's expression was also somewhat unsightly. He felt insulted. This Long Wen was really reckless to actually say such bold words. This Long Wen's strength isn't much, but his ability to boast is top-notch. In the Moonwolf clan's group, Chen Ping sneered repeatedly. Tu Chen, who stood beside Chen Ping, simply closed his eyes. He didn't even want to look at a clown like Zhuoan right now. All right. Remember what you said. Originally, everyone thought that Shi Yu would speak ruthlessly, but they didn't expect that Shi Yu actually compromised, causing everyone to be somewhat speechless. Shi Yu didn't care about what the crowd thought, but he was secretly delighted. He clearly knew that Zhuoan's strength was stronger than his, but he was still very confident in himself. He could still use his full strength to block Zhuoan's all-out attack. Zhuoan didn't waste any more words, and his right hand blasted out in the void. Instantly, terrifying energy surged and condensed in the void like clouds and rain, forming a terrifying giant hand that was like a towering mountain. Moreover, this giant hand wasn't ordinary, it was almost otherworldly. On the surface of this giant hand, there were raging black flames burning. This was the Undying Wizard Fire, a terrifying flame that was formed by the combination of the Undying Bird and Zhurong's fire. It was also considered one of Zhuoan's killing moves, and its power was extremely terrifying. After all, back then, he relied on the Undying Wizard Fire to easily refine the golden crow's blood on the surface of Hu Yi's divine arrow. This showed how terrifying and powerful the Undying Wizard Fire was. Rumble. The moment this giant hand condensed, it fell down and enveloped Shi Yu's entire body. Shi Yu's expression changed drastically. He mobilized all the energy in his body and took out all the divine weapons in his spiritual ring, just to block this attack. However, the moment Shi Yu came into contact with the flaming giant hand, his entire body burned up, and he was enveloped in the black flames. His body was engulfed by the black flames, and he disappeared without a trace. In other words, he was completely burned into ashes by the black flames, and there wasn't even a trace of him left. After the flaming giant hand dissipated, the screams disappeared, and so did Shi Yu. At this moment, all the foreign tribes who were watching became extremely quiet. Their actions were strangely in sync. Their eyes were wide open, and their gazes were filled with disbelief as they stared at the scene in front of them. When all the foreign tribes came back to their senses, they couldn't help but gasp. Everyone understood that Shi Yu had been destroyed, and his body and soul had been destroyed. And this young man from a small tribe, who no one thought highly of, had only used one move to destroy Shi Yu, and there wasn't even a trace of him left. Shi Fu's hideous smile froze on his face, and Shi Inha's face was completely stiff. Among the Moonwolf clan's team, Chen Ping's mocking laughter also came to an abrupt end. Even Tu Chen, who was standing beside Chen Ping and resting with his eyes closed, felt the strange atmosphere. He opened his eyes and saw this shocking scene. Zhuoan slowly raised his head and looked at the high priest, Wu Wuxian, who was slightly moved, and said, "High priest, the victor has been decided." I think I have proven myself. I did indeed rely on my true strength to obtain a spot in the first stage. Before Wu Wuxian could speak, Shifu roared, "You dog, how dare you kill a member of my Corpse Gowl clan? Today, you're dead meat. My Corpse Gowl clan will kill you even if we have to go to heaven or hell." A terrifying murderous intent spread out like a tide. Shifu was enraged, and he actually attacked directly. A powerful aura exploded out, causing the nearby outsiders to let out a muffled groan as they retreated, their eyes filled with fear as they looked at the corpse. This Shifu was really powerful. Just his aura alone had such power. Bang! Chapter 33-35. Wu Xingyuan's Helpshuowen's eyes were cold. Just as he was about to block Shifu's attack, a vast amount of energy suddenly swept over from afar. The direction of the energy was heading in Zhuowen's direction. Zhuowen's sharp divine thought could sense that the vast amount of energy was not directed at him, but at Shifu, who was attacking him. Zhuowen put down his right hand. He could sense that the energy was very powerful. Even he felt that it was not ordinary. It should be more than enough to block Shifu. Bang! The two energies collided violently, causing an unprecedented explosion. Zhuowen waved his sleeve and retreated dozens of steps. The powerful energy formed a shield in front of him, blocking the terrifying aftermath of the explosion. In Zhuowen's divine thought, the moment the explosion occurred, an elegant figure stood in front of him and easily blocked Shifu's full-force attack. Shifu grunted and couldn't help but retreat repeatedly. His face was terrifyingly pale. He raised his head and looked at the figure that stood before Zhuowen, and his pupils couldn't help but constrict as he said, "Wu Xingyuan? What do you mean by this?" As soon as Shifu's words came out, the surrounding foreign races reacted. Their gazes involuntarily fell on the figure. Just as Shifu had said, the figure was indeed the #1 genius of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Xingyuan. High Priestess Wu Wuxian, who was standing in front of the square, frowned slightly. She was also a little surprised that Wu Xingyuan would intervene in the affairs of a mere ant from a small tribe. The surrounding foreign races were also discussing. They were all making wild guesses about the relationship between Zhuowen and Wu Xingyuan. After all, if Zhuowen and Wu Xingyuan had nothing to do with each other, why would Wu Xingyuan help? Shi Yinmasha's face was ugly. He glanced at Wu Xingyuan, then turned to Wu Wuxian and said in a deep voice, "High Priestess, shouldn't you give me an explanation? Why is Wu Xingyuan intervening in the private affairs of the Corpse Spirit tribe?" Wu Wuxian said indifferently, "Xingyuan is just upholding justice. Shiyu from your Corpse Gowl clan was inferior and lost to Long Wen, but your Corpse Gowl clan is unconvinced, so Shifu wants to use this reason to kill Long Wen. Isn't he looking down on our shaman clan too much?" Corpse Yinmarsh was stunned, and then he hurriedly lowered his head and said, "I don't dare. I was impulsive just now. However, that Long Wen is truly vicious and merciless. He didn't hold back in the slightest and actually killed Shiyu. That's truly too disgraceful. Is he trying to bully my Corpse Gowl clan because there's no one capable? We'll talk about this later. Your Corpse Gowl clan's Shifu attacked without knowing what was right and wrong. It was indeed a bit impulsive. It was only natural for Xingyuan to attack," Wu Wuxian said indifferently. Corpse Yinmarsh hurriedly nodded in agreement. This was the Sorcerer clan's territory, and the Sorcerer clan was much stronger than the Corpse Ghost clan. If Wu Wuxian had spoken, he really wouldn't have dared to say anything. Wu Xingyuan stood proudly. He didn't even look at Zhuowen. Instead, he looked at Shifu in front of him and said, "Shifu, you've crossed the line. The outcome of the battle between fellow Daoist Long Wen and fellow Daoist Shiyu has already been decided, but you came out and interfered. This is against the rules. I came out just to uphold justice." Shifu's gaze was gloomy, and he said mockingly, "I know why you attacked for this ant. Isn't it because this ant gave you a very good Heaven Ascension divine pill back then? Seeing how cautious you are, I'm afraid it's at least a Heaven Ascension divine pill." Wu Xingyuan's expression instantly turned ugly, and he said coldly, "Shifu, if you act on impulse again, then don't blame me for suppressing you with reason. You keep saying that fellow Daoist Long Wen is something. Haven't you thought about how wrong you're doing? If all the fellow Taoists participating in the shaman song gathering are like you, and you act on impulse and kill someone you don't like, then what is this? If you use your reason to do it, that's fine too. Today, I, Wu Xingyuan, also don't like you, Shifu, and want to fight to the death with you. You and I fight. The winner lives, and the loser dies. Do you dare to fight with me? As soon as these words came out, all the foreign races were moved. No one expected that a small genius from a small clan would cause a life-and-death battle between two top geniuses of the primitive heavenly domain. Shifu was instantly stunned. With Shifu's personality, if someone provoked him like this, he would have slapped them to death. However, the person who provoked him now was Wu Xingyuan. Shifu hesitated. Wu Xingyuan was too terrifying. Before he broke through, he had challenged Wu Xingyuan and was almost beaten to death. Now that Wu Xingyuan had broken through and surpassed his realm, his strength would only be more terrifying. Now that Wu Xingyuan challenged him to a life-and-death battle, he was very conflicted and didn't dare to accept the challenge. Coward, you were so arrogant just now, but now you're scared. You're indeed a piece of trash who bullies the weak and fears the strong, Zhuowen sneered. Shifu glared at Zhuowen coldly. Just as he was about to speak, Wu Wuxian spoke. Let's end this matter here. Since this Long Wen indeed has the strength, then he's qualified to obtain a spot in the first stage. However, Long Wen, you were too ruthless. You really have to give me an explanation for this matter. The moment Wu Wuxian said that, the originally noisy square immediately quietened down. After all, Wu Wuxian was the high priest of the witch race and had a transcendent status. His words were very valuable and no one dared to refute. Even Wu Xingyuan and Shifu, who were confronting each other, fell silent. Numerous gazes gathered on Zhuo Wen, the main character of this event. They all wanted to know what explanation this young man from a small clan would give Wu Wuxian. Zhuowen clasped his hands at Wu Wuxian and said, "Just now, it was indeed this Long who used too much strength. After all, Shifu looked down on people like a snob. I thought that Shi was really very powerful. I was too scared in my heart, so I gave it a try with all my strength. But I didn't expect that Shi couldn't take a beating. High Priest, I absolutely didn't have the heart to kill people. Instead, it was that Shifu who targeted me at every turn, wanting to kill me and be happy. I hope that High Priest can be discerning." "Bullshit!" Shifu roared angrily. "Shifu, you come back." Just as Shifu was about to explode, Corpse Yinmarsh shouted coldly, calling Shifu back. Although Shifu was furious, he did not dare to disobey Corpse Yinmarsh's words and could only return to Corpse Yinmarsh's side hatefully. The moment Shifu left, Wu Xingyuan also returned to the witch race team. From beginning to end, Wu Xingyuan did not give Zhuowen a glance. Clearly, in his view, Zhuowen was not qualified for him to look at. Zhuowen was speechless in his heart. He was clear why this Wu Xingyuan wanted to help him. Most likely, he felt that the value of the divine pill that he gave surpassed the value of the blazing phoenix exquisite leaf, so he felt somewhat indebted to him. Therefore, he took action to help him this time, repaying the favor that he thought he owed him. Although Zhuowen did not have much contact with Wu Xingyuan, he could feel that this Wu Xingyuan should be a very independent guy. Furthermore, his style of doing things was completely based on himself. He could tell that Wu Xingyuan simply looked down on him, a young man from a small clan. Moreover, he was even clearer that after helping him this time, Wu Xingyuan felt that he had already repaid the favor he owed. Next, his attitude toward him would probably only be even colder than that Shifu. Chapter 33-36 At Stage 2 Long Wen, I want an explanation. If I think your reason is reasonable, I will judge fairly and not accuse you. High Priest Wu Wuxian said calmly. Hearing this, Zhuo Wen frowned and said helplessly, High Priest, when you asked Shi to fight me, you didn't add any conditions. For example, you can't use too much force and you can't go overboard. Since the High Priest didn't say anything, I think a wise man like you wouldn't have forgotten. What you meant was that you were free to fight, regardless of death or injury. That's my understanding. Nonsense. A bunch of nonsense. High Priest, this ant is too arrogant. How dare he speculate your intentions? He deserves to die. I'm willing to kill this arrogant ant on behalf of the High Priest. Just as Zhuowen finished speaking, Xianhu immediately retorted. Zhuowen didn't say anything and looked at Wu Wuxian. Wu Wuxian was the only one who could make the final decision. As long as Wu Wuxian didn't say anything, Xianhu wouldn't dare to make a move. Well, you're right. You've barely satisfied me. You may leave and wait for the second stage of the competition to begin. Wu Wuxian's tone was still calm. Xianma's expression changed slightly. Just as he was about to speak, Wu Wuxian's calm and emotionless gaze forced him to shut his mouth. His neck shrunk, and the words that he was about to say had completely withered away. Zhuowen nodded and calmly retreated to Crepe Myrtle Star's side. Zhuowen glanced at Crepe Myrtle Star's movements. He could see that Crepe Myrtle Star was prepared to fight on his behalf. This made him feel grateful to Crepe Myrtle Star. He believed that if Wu Wuxian had made an unfair judgment, Crepe Myrtle Star would have already made a move. Brother Crepe Myrtle, no matter what happens, you must not fight on my behalf. I have my own way of escaping. You don't have to go down with me, Zhuowen warned. Crepe Myrtle Star's eyes flickered. He hesitated for a moment and nodded. So this country bumpkin is called Long Wen. His strength is not bad, but is still far from senior apprentice brother Tu Qian. Within the Moon Wolf clan's team, Qian Ping, who had always disliked Zhuowen, curled her lips and said with some displeasure. Although Tu Qian, who was standing beside Qian Ping, was surprised by Zhuowen's performance, he still looked proud after hearing Qian Ping's words. However, the Moon Wolf clan's patriarch, Yi Taihe, had a solemn expression as he said in a deep voice, "Both of you, don't underestimate your opponent. Although Long Wen's background is far inferior to yours, I feel that his strength is not simple. He might not have used his full strength in the battle with Shi Yu." Tu Qian and Qian Ping were startled. They didn't expect Yi Taihe to have such a high evaluation of the dragon text. However, the two of them didn't really mind. As far as they were concerned, no matter how strong Long Wen was, could he compare to top geniuses like them? The difference between a small race and a large race, especially a top race like the top 10 races, was too great. This also caused the geniuses nurtured by the two races to be completely incomparable. No matter how good Zhuowen's performance was, in their eyes, Zhuowen was still from a small race and an ant-like existence. They still looked down on him. On the other hand, Feng Leluo, the Phoenix Master of the Phoenix People's team, frowned deeply. He felt that Zhuowen's figure was somewhat familiar. He hated this sense of familiarity because this sense of familiarity reminded him of a person he hated very much. However, after carefully inspecting Long Wen, he didn't sense any aura of that annoying person. It was just his intuition that this person was somewhat familiar. Regardless of who Long Wen is, how can a small race possess such great strength and a celestial divine elixir? Such a small race must have a huge secret. After the Sorcerer Song Conference ends, this kid must find an opportunity to get hold of this secret. Feng Leluo's eyes flickered. However, he had a bad plan in his heart. Now that the first stage of the Sorcerer Song Conference has ended, the second stage is about to begin. The 500 contestants this time, please step forward. Those who have been eliminated, please leave. Wu Wuxian spoke again. The foreign races who had been eliminated looked dejected and slowly left. They knew that they had no chance of participating in the Sorcerer Song Conference. The second stage is very simple. As you can see, around the guarded ground, there are 12 huge statues of ancestral sorcerers. These 12 statues of ancestral sorcerers were created when the sorcerer tribe was first established. They were carved by the sorcerer tribe's ancestor, who was also a direct descendant of the ancestral sorcerer. Regardless of appearance, aura, or background, they are very similar to the real 12 ancestral sorcerers. Next, I will activate the ancient ancestral sorcerer's sacred aura in the statues. The sacred aura of the ancestral sorcerer will continue to strengthen. Those who cannot withstand it will be eliminated. Only the last 108 contestants will be able to successfully advance to the second stage. Wu Wuxian's voice was calm, but it contained a unique rhythm that made people feel as though they were bathing in the spring breeze. "Everyone, please come to the centermost area of the guarded ground and sit cross-legged in your best posture. I will begin to activate the sacred aura of Pangu." Wu Wuxian pointed at the centermost area of the guarded ground, which was 3 miles in radius, and said plainly. After Wu Wuxian finished speaking, Wu Xingyuan stomped his right foot and teleported to the centermost area of the guarded ground. He was very conceited. With his hands behind his back, he stood there, dazzling like the god of war. Shi Fu snorted and landed not far away from Wu Xingyuan. However, he was not as arrogant as Wu Xingyuan. Instead, he took out a futon and sat down cross-legged to adjust his condition. Wu Qiutong, Tu Qian, Qian Ping, Feng Bumming, and the rest of the geniuses from the top 10 tribes flew over. Then, the geniuses from the top 10 tribes came to their senses and rushed out like a swarm of bees. They found an empty space within the 3-mile radius, took out a futon, and sat down cross-legged. Zhuoan, Ziwei Starlord, and Jing Shan, the only 3 geniuses from the top 5 tribes that made it to the top 500, also entered the 3-mile radius. They randomly chose a spot, took out a futon, and sat down cross-legged. From this angle, other than Wu Xingyuan who was standing in the center of the guarded ground, the rest of the geniuses were all sitting cross-legged on the futon, adjusting their condition. "Let's begin." Wu Wuxian's eyes were calm. She formed a seal with her hands, and a 7-colored radiance surged between her hands. Swoosh! Suddenly, a 7-colored radiance shot out, piercing through the void, and landed on one of the statues of the ancestor sorcerer. It was the statue of ancestor sorcerer Zhurong. The statue seemed to have come to life, and the surface of the statue was burning with a terrifying flame. A scorching heat wave came crashing down, affecting the centermost area of the guarded ground. Bang! 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 The moment the terrifying pressure came crashing down, some of the foreign races let out a groan. Blood flowed out from the corner of their mouths. Obviously, they could not adapt to the sudden increase in pressure. There were even a few foreign races who were not prepared. The moment the powerful pressure came crashing down, they staggered and flew out, landing heavily on the ground. These foreign races who were sent flying out were immediately eliminated, and they left the scene quietly. Chapter 33-37. Ancestral Witch Statue. Zhuowen had a strange look on his face because when the pressure fell on him, it did not bring him any substantial pressure. Instead, it felt as comfortable as a spring breeze. Moreover, he also found that the moment the pressure fell on him, the blood of his Pangu sacred body was boiling and cheering. His Pangu sacred body was even absorbing the pressure and turning it into a power that belonged only to it. Zhuowen was pleasantly surprised. This meant that he could rely on the pressure of the ancestral witch statue to temper his Pangu sacred body. He also had some guesses about this phenomenon. The 12 ancestral witches were born from Pangu's flesh and blood and were inheriting Pangu's power. What he cultivated was the Pangu sacred body. In terms of quality, it was naturally superior to the ancestral witch statue. Naturally, the pressure of the ancestral witch statue could be used by the Pangu sacred body. Thinking of this, Zhuowen suppressed the surprise in his heart and sat cross-legged on the futon. He began to silently absorb the terrifying pressure and the great benefits it brought to his Pangu sacred body. Of course, Zhuowen wanted to hide his cultivation process, so he did not make too much of a fuss. Instead, he sat quietly and cultivated like the other alien races. Time passed and the 7-colored light in Wu Wuxian's hand shot out again and landed on the second ancestral witch statue. A second, even more terrifying aura came crashing down and merged with the first aura, resulting in an unprecedentedly explosive aura. Puff! Instantly, several outsiders were sent tumbling backward, eliminated from the competition. Even more outsiders coughed up mouthfuls of blood as they barely managed to withstand the terrifying pressure of the second wave of attacks. When the third ancestral witch statue was activated, dozens of alien races were eliminated. When the fourth ancestral witch statue was activated, nearly 100 alien races were eliminated. When the sixth ancestral witch statue was activated, There were only a little more than 180 alien races left in the central area. These 180 foreign races could be considered as the elites of the second phase, and could be considered as relatively strong existences. Puff. Another figure coughed out blood. This was a beautiful figure, a female from the outsiders. Everyone looked over and saw that the beautiful figure was the genius of the Moon Wolf clan, Chen Ping. The moment Chen Ping retreated, Taihe acted and pulled her to his side. He also took out a healing divine pill and fed it to Chen Ping to heal her injuries. Clan leader, I've disappointed you, Chen Ping said with shame. Taihe shook his head and consoled her. Chen Ping, it's not your fault. Actually, I think that your talent. It's mainly because your cultivation. Your art translation. I'm surprised that you've been able to hold on until now. You don't blame yourself. Taihe was actually very satisfied with Chen Ping. Others might not be clear about Chen Ping's cultivation situation, but he was very clear. Chen Ping's because she was at a young age. She was still, she, and she was being she. Her. She. Her was her translation. She. Her art translation. Her translation art she translation she translation translation. Hearing Taihe's comforting words, Chen Ping finally regained her calm. She looked at Tu Chen and saw that he was still sitting calmly on the futon. Her lips curled into a smile. But soon, she saw Zhuo Wen's figure in the center. When she saw that Zhuo Wen was calm and did not look like he could hold on any longer, Chen Ping was displeased. This country bumpkin can hold on until now? That's unexpected. Chen Ping muttered to herself. At that moment, another ray of rainbow light shot out from Wu Wuxian's hand and landed on the seventh wizard statue. The seventh and even more terrifying oppressive might, combined with the previous 6 oppressive might, came crashing down. Traces of cracks actually appeared on the white jade ground in the center. It could be seen how terrifying this oppressive might was. Bang! 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 In the blink of an eye, another dozen or so outsiders were sent flying, unable to withstand the terrifying pressure. They were eliminated from the competition. Soon, there were only 108 foreign tribesmen left in the center. The most eye-catching one was Wu Xingyuan. He stood in the same spot and looked calm. It was as if the terrifying force did not exist to him. The 108th place has been decided. Those who are second class are qualified to enter the last round. However, the second round is not over yet. I will continue to release the force of the wizard statue. Those who cannot withstand it can leave. Those who are willing to continue to endure it can stay. This force is beneficial to you. As Wu Wuxian spoke, he shot out another ray of rainbow light. The 8th wizard statue was activated. At this moment, the surrounding ancestral sorcerer statues seemed to have undergone a qualitative change. In an instant, it became abnormally terrifying. The surrounding pressure seemed to have formed a terrifying storm, continuously tearing apart all of the demonic tribe members in the central area. Fart! In an instant, most of the foreign tribesmen spat out blood and flew out. There were only 15 foreign tribesmen left in the center. Among the 15 foreign tribesmen, other than Zhuo Wen, Ziwei Star Sovereign, and Jing Shan, the other 12 were all geniuses from the 10 great tribes. What was worth noting was that the sorcerer tribe occupied 3 of the 12 spots. These 3 were Wu Xingyuan, Wu Xiuran, and Wu Wenbin. The other 9 were the geniuses from the other 10 great tribes. For example, Feng Bumming from the Phoenix people, Wu Qiutong from the Nine-tailed Fox tribe, Tu Chen from the Moonwolf tribe, and so on. Many of the foreign tribesmen were surprised by Zhuo Wen, Jing Shan, and Ziwei Star Sovereign, who had persevered until now. Wu Wuxian also noticed the 3 of them. Another ray of rainbow light flashed and the 9th wizard statue was activated. The terrifying force of the force was like a tidal wave. This time, the force of the force had undergone a qualitative change. It was too terrifying. 4 of the foreign tribesmen groaned and left. These 4 foreign tribesmen were Feng Bumming from the Phoenix people, Hu Ting from the Black Tiger tribe, Long Hui from the Dragon tribe, and Seonggui from the giant turtle tribe. After the four of them left, they returned to their teams in shame. At the same time, they felt that it was inconceivable that Zhuowen and the other two were still in the central area. The 10th wizard statue was activated and the ground in the central area completely collapsed. The surrounding force of the force was like a storm, chaotic and terrifying. It could tear any living being into pieces at any time. Puff. The moment the 10th statue was activated, the force of the force had reached a terrifying level. Even Wu Xingyuan frowned slightly. He took out a futon and began to sit cross-legged on it. Obviously, the current force of the force was so terrifying that even he had to be cautious. Ziwei Star Sovereign, Jing Shan, Tu Qian, Wu Qiutong, and the rest of the people also left with a groan. At this moment, there were only 3 people left in the central area. These 3 people were Zhuowen, Wu Xingyuan, and Shifu. Zhuowen looked at Ziwei Star Sovereign who had retreated and was a little surprised. With Ziwei Star Sovereign's strength, he should be able to hold on for a while. However, when he saw the look in Ziwei Star Sovereign's eyes, he knew that Ziwei Star Sovereign wanted to leave as soon as possible. He did not want to stay any longer and be too conspicuous. As for Crepe Myrtle Star Lord, he gave Zhuowen a look, telling him to quickly retreat. Chapter 33-38. Fart. At the instant when the 10th ancestral shaman statue poured down, the corpse was caught off guard and spat out a mouthful of blood. His body swayed, and the bones in his entire body creaked incessantly like a symphony. Shifu didn't expect that the pressure emitted by the 10th ancestral shaman statue would be so much more terrifying than the previous one. Now, he was barely holding on. He couldn't imagine how terrifying the pressure in this area would be when the 11th statue was activated. Thinking of this, Shifu's face turned ugly. However, what made his face even uglier was the figure of Zhuowen who was sitting not far away. There were only 3 people left on the field, and that was him, Wu Xingyuan, and Zhuowen. However, Shifu found it inconceivable that Zhuowen could hold on until now. Moreover, he saw that Zhuowen, who was sitting cross-legged, had a peaceful look on his face. The terrifying pressure around him didn't seem to have much effect on him. Humph. This guy must be forcing himself. A mere ant from a small clan can actually hold on until now. The killing intent in Shifu's eyes was terrifying. He felt that the young man from a small clan who had gone against him time and time again was unusual. Now, the young man from a small clan wasn't strong enough. He had to eliminate this disaster as soon as possible to prevent future troubles. However, he knew that now wasn't the time to make a move. After the Wu Song conference, he had to get rid of this guy. Wu Xingyuan also noticed Zhuowen's existence and finally looked at Zhuowen. Although he knew that the young man from a small clan wasn't weak, he didn't expect him to be able to hold on until now. It was really beyond his expectations. On the other hand, Crepe Myrtle Star, who had retreated a long time ago, was a little anxious. He sent a voice transmission to Zhuowen and asked Zhuowen to retreat first and not be so conspicuous. It was easy to make others jealous. Unfortunately, Zhuowen didn't respond to him. Instead, he sat cross-legged with his eyes closed as if he was cultivating. Not only Wu Xingyuan and Shifu, but almost all the patriarch-level powerhouses of the various clans who were watching in the surroundings also noticed Zhuowen, who was a very disharmonious existence. Is this draconic text really from a small clan? Mother **K, he actually managed to hold on until now. How strong must his physical body be to be able to do this? I also feel that it's strange. This dragon rune's aura isn't strong. How did he last until now? I also feel very puzzled. Could it be that this guy is cheating? Zhuowen's performance was simply too eye-catching, and it aroused the suspicions of many non-human races. Zhuowen, however, did not care about the discussions around him. He was tirelessly absorbing the powerful pressure from the surroundings. The ancestral shaman pressure was like nutrients that surged into his body, tempering his body. In the process of tempering, he found that the realm of his Pangu sacred body was faintly loosened. There were signs of a breakthrough, which was incredible. His Pangu sacred body was originally at the peak of the 7 stars realm. Now that the realm had loosened, he felt that he was one step closer to the 8 stars realm. However, the more he absorbed the pressure, the more obvious the signs of his sacred body's realm loosening. He could also feel how strong the barrier to the 8 stars realm was. He felt that it was somewhat impossible to completely advance to the 8 stars realm. With the energy of this pressure, I think I should be able to break through to the 8 stars realm from the peak of the 7 stars realm. Zhuowen's eyes were full of light. He had no confidence in advancing his Pangu sacred body to the 8 stars realm, but there was hope for him to break through to the 8 stars realm. However, this pressure was not enough. He needed a stronger and more terrifying pressure to temper his sacred body so that he could break through to the 8 stars realm in one go. Wu Wuxian frowned slightly. She took a deep look at Zhuowen. She felt that Zhuowen was very strange. This guy did not look like he was enduring the pressure of the ancestral shaman. Instead, he looked like he was enjoying it. Could it be that I'm imagining things? Thinking of this, Wu Wuxian shook her head. She waved her right hand and shot out the 11th ray of 7-colored light. Suddenly, the 11th ancestral shaman statue was activated. Rumble. That horrifying pressure came down, causing the ground within a radius of 3 miles in the center of the guarded ground to crumble apart entirely. Moreover, this kind of collapse was catastrophic. The entire ground was shattered, and layer after layer of terrifying craters appeared. These pits were too deep. They were like an abyss, pitch black. After the 11th ray of pressure was activated, Shifu could no longer withstand it. He had reached his limit. He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward, leaving the 3 miles of land. Even Wu Xingyuan frowned. His face was pale. A trace of blood slowly flowed out from the corner of Wu Xingyuan's mouth. Obviously, he was not feeling well under the impact of the pressure. Wu Xingyuan looked at Zhuowen. His pupils could not help but shrink. This was because he realized that the ordinary young man from the small tribe still had a calm expression. He sat cross-legged on the futon and was as still as a mountain. He was like an old monk with profound dharma. What's going on? The dragon rune is not affected at all? That's impossible. Wu Xingyuan was really shocked. This was the first time he had been moved since he participated in the sorcerer song gathering. The deep pit was filled with dust, and a powerful pressure filled the area around the pit. Under the effect of the pressure, the dense dust in the deep pit was endowed with extremely powerful energy. Like countless sword lights, they quickly and chaotically collided in the deep pit, forming dazzling light and energy. The deep pit had formed a natural killing array. Any living thing that entered the deep pit would be crushed into powder by the terrifying killing array formed by the combination of the pressure and dust. Even the divine senses of many foreign races in the vicinity were blocked by this natural killing array. I never thought that activating the 11th ancestral shaman statue would cause such a terrifying pressure. An ordinary master of heaven's initial stage would be seriously injured if he entered the deep pit. If he stayed in there for a long time, he would be at risk of dying. The Moon Wolf tribe leader, Itaiha, looked solemn. He was shocked by the terrifying pressure. Qian Ping, who was standing beside Itaiha, said softly, "Why hasn't Dragon Rune come out yet? He might have been holding on. Now, he might have died in there." Itaiha shook his head and said, "The Dragon Rune is not strong, but his body's defensive power is very strong. He must have cultivated a secret skill of physical defense. Otherwise, with his strength, he would not have been able to hold on until now." Many of the tribe leaders agreed with Itaiha's words. They also thought that the Dragon Rune's strength was ordinary. The reason why he could hold on until now was that he had cultivated a secret skill of physical defense. I see. The Dragon Rune is just a little thicker. His strength might not be as strong as mine. Qian Ping regained her confidence and said self-righteously. She had mocked Zhuowen in every possible way and even called Zhuowen a country bumpkin. Now, the country bumpkin that she called a country bumpkin had performed so well in the sorcerer song gathering. He was much stronger than her. Naturally, she was unhappy and her feelings were complicated. Now, she had found a reason to regain her confidence. She felt that the Dragon Rune was nothing special. He was just lucky. At this moment, Wu Wuxian released the 12th ray of 7-colored brilliance. The last ancestral shaman statue was activated. The natural killing array in the deep pit formed a terrifying storm that tore everything in front of it apart. Chapter 33-39. Half-8 star looks like someone can't take it anymore. It should be Long Wen. What do you mean it should be Long Wen? It must be Long Wen. I don't know what kind of dog's hit luck that Long Wen has. He actually lasted until now in the second stage. But now his luck has run out. Compared to Wu Xingyuan, he is still far from it. That's true. After all, Wu Xingyuan is the most dazzling genius of the sorcerer clan and the true representative of the younger generation of the prehistoric heavenly region. He is invincible. In the deep pit, the moment the muffled groan sounded out, the surrounding people began to chatter. Immediately after, a miserable figure flew out of the deep pit. Long Wen can't take it anymore. The Moon Wolf clan patriarch, Yi Taihe, shook his head. This little bastard must have a lot of secrets. We can't let him go. To be able to withstand the pressure of the ancestral sorcerer statue until now, we can't let him go. The Corpse Ghost clan patriarch, Shi Yinzhuang, said hatefully in his heart. Wu Wuxian's gaze also landed on the faintly discernible figure. Like everyone else, she also believed that the figure was Zhuo Wen. She was very confident in Wu Xingyuan. No matter what stage, Wu Xingyuan had to be first, and could only be first. This came from the pride of the sorcerer clan, and also her confidence in Wu Xingyuan's talent and strength. At this moment, all the gazes in the surroundings were fixed on the wretched figure. Their thoughts were surprisingly the same. They all thought that this figure must be Long Wen and could not be Wu Xingyuan. Bang! After the miserable figure flew out of the deep pit, he twisted his waist, flipped in the air, and landed lightly on the ground. However, this figure was clearly exhausted. He knelt on one knee and spat out a mouthful of blood. It was obvious that his injuries were not light. When all eyes finally gathered on this figure, the owners of these gazes were stunned. The surroundings were terrifyingly quiet. Even someone as steady as Wu Wuxian staggered, a clear indication of the turmoil in her heart. What's going on? Shouldn't the one who came out be Long Wen? How could it be Wu Xingyuan? Are you seeing things? Did you mistake Long Wen for Wu Xingyuan? All the alien races recognized that this figure was not the Long Wen they were expecting, but the #1 genius of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Xingyuan. An uproar erupted in the surrounding area. Many of the non-human beings were in disbelief at this result. Wu Xingyuan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and slowly stood up. He stared at the deep pit in front of him for a long time before finally turning around and walking to Wu Wuxian's side without a word. Nephew Wu, did Long Wen die because he couldn't withstand the pressure inside? The Moon Wolf clan's patriarch, Yi Taihe, couldn't recognize Long Wen, so he stepped forward and asked. He must have died in there. Brother Yi, you can't be thinking that the ants from that small clan have the ability to hold on in there until now, right? What a joke. Corpse Yinmarsh sneered. Shi Fu coldly snorted and glanced at the deep pit in the distance. He firmly believed in Corpse Yinmarsh's judgment. Such a death was letting Long Wen off too lightly. Wu Wuxian looked at Wu Xingyuan, puzzled. She wanted to verify Yi Taihe's words with Wu Xingyuan. Wu Xingyuan's face didn't look good. He didn't want to explain, but Wu Wuxian was also curious, so he had to speak. Long Wen didn't die. He's still in the deep pit. I lost to him in the second stage. After Wu Xingyuan finished his sentence, he shut his mouth and his expression was cold. However, this sentence was like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples and spread among the non-human beings. Wu Xingyuan actually admitted defeat. This was too unbelievable. However, his strength isn't strong. If it's a one-on-one fight, I can defeat him in one move. The surrounding cheers were too loud. Wu Xingyuan couldn't bear to listen any longer. He explained that Long Wenyuan wasn't his match. The second stage of the competition was special. That was why Long Wenyuan took advantage of the loophole. As soon as this statement came out, the surrounding clamor lessened. Many of the non-human beings agreed with Wu Xingyuan's words. The second stage was indeed not a competition of strength. Long Wen's luck was indeed good, so he had the opportunity to overshadow Wu Xingyuan's limelight. Wu Wuxian's beautiful eyes turned cold. She wasn't targeting Wu Xingyuan, but Long Wen. She wouldn't allow the number one genius of the sorcerer tribe to be defeated. But now, Long Wen had actually overshadowed Wu Xingyuan in the second stage. This was too ridiculous. Wu Wuxian's expression was calm, but her heart was furious. She wanted to kill Long Wen. High Priestess, Long Wen hasn't come out yet. Our divine senses can't enter. Why don't you stop the pressure? Let's see how Long Wen is doing inside. Taihe said impatiently. Wu Wuxian shook her head and said, I can't control the pressure of the ancestral sorcerer statue. I can only activate the statue, but I can't stop the pressure. However, this pressure will only exist for 2 hours. After 2 hours, the pressure will naturally disappear. Not far away, Crepe Myrtle Star frowned slightly. He felt that Wu Wuxian was lying. Wu Wuxian should be able to control the pressure, but she said that she couldn't. Obviously, she didn't want to remove the pressure in the deep pit. This was targeted at Zhuowen. Wu Xingyuan looked at Wu Wuxian again, but didn't say anything. He knew that Wu Wuxian was lying, but he remained silent. He even hoped that Long Wen would die in the deep pit. This was the best result. As time passed, Zhuowen still hadn't appeared. Many of the foreign tribes around were talking about it. They all thought that Long Wen might have died inside. At this moment, Zhuowen, who was in the deep pit, was bursting with blazing light. The light was very strong, but the pressure and dust around the deep pit completely covered the light. Even the aura didn't leak out. Zhuowen's eyes were full of light. The pressure of the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues was so strong that it had tempered his Pangu sacred body to the peak. That's right. Zhuowen's Pangu sacred body was about to break through. Even though he knew that it was impossible for him to break through to 8 stars, he knew that it wouldn't be a problem for him to break through to half 8 stars. This was also to build up his foundation for breaking through to 8 stars. Boom! Suddenly, the sparkling and translucent radiance on Zhuowen's body reached its peak. Countless rays of light overflowed in all directions, shooting out like arrows. A terrifying aura surged out in all directions like a tidal wave. The surrounding craters, under the effect of this terrifying energy, actually cracked open, expanding from 3 miles to more than 10 miles. At this moment, the terrifying pressure in the deep pit was completely annihilated. The moment the pressure was annihilated, Zhuowen's aura was retracted under the effect of the Pangu banner. At this moment, all the foreign tribes outside were leaving the central area of the guarded ground. They looked at the deep pit that had expanded several times in front of them in shock. Just now, this 3-kilometer-wide crater suddenly burst open, and a terrifying energy burst out, directly expanding the crater to its current size of more than 10 kilometers. The nearby foreign tribes quickly retreated far away, looking at the expanding deep pit in front of them with lingering fear. None of the foreign tribes thought that this strange phenomenon had anything to do with Zhuowen. They all thought that it was caused by the pressure of the ancestral sorcerer statues. That Long Wen should be dead for sure. That terrifying energy burst out just now. Even if he doesn't die, he'll die. That was what most of the foreign tribes thought. Chapter 3340. Foam Bumming came looking for them. The moment they heard the clear sound of footsteps, all the foreign tribe members looked in the direction of the footsteps. They saw that the dust in the deep pit in front of them was swept away and dispersed. A figure as straight as a spear appeared in front of them. This guy. He's not dead. Shi Fu and Shi Inzhou's faces turned ugly. The patriarch of the Moon Wolf tribe, Taihe, frowned slightly. He looked deeply at the figure that emerged from the deep pit and muttered in a low voice, "These dragon runes are really not simple. It seems that I made a mistake back then." Qian Ping, who had called Zhuowen a country bumpkin, also fell silent. Or rather, she was stunned and could not say anything. Tu Qian, who was standing beside Qian Ping, no longer had the arrogance in his eyes. Instead, it was replaced by seriousness and fear. The most shocked person was Wu Xingyuan, who was standing beside Wu Wuxian. The moment Zhuowen appeared, his body trembled slightly, but he quickly regained his composure. What Wu Xingyuan could not understand was how terrifying the pressure of the 12 wizard statues was. Even an expert in the advanced stage of the sky-piercing master realm would be severely injured if he was enveloped by such a terrifying pressure. But what kind of freak was this Long Wen? Not only did he survive, but his body was also spotless. He didn't seem to have any injuries at all. How did he do it? Wu Xingyuan remembered clearly that when he could not withstand the pressure of the 12 wizard statues and had retreated, he had specially looked at Zhuowen. At that time, although Zhuowen was in a better state than he was also in a sorry state. He was not as spotless as he was now. Furthermore, Wu Xingyuan could faintly feel that Zhuowen's strength seemed to have improved compared to before. Even so, he still could not see Zhuowen's specific cultivation level. On the other hand, Wu Wuxian's expression turned ugly. His desire to kill Zhuowen grew even stronger. Originally, Wu Wuxian had planned to use the pressure of the wizard statues to completely destroy Zhuowen. However, she did not expect Zhuowen to come out unscathed. This was a slap to her face. Although Wu Wuxian was filled with killing intent towards Zhuowen, she could not do it now. After all, the witch song contest still had to continue. Wu Wuxian waved her sleeve and a surge of energy poured out. It landed on the huge pit in the middle of the guarded ground. The huge pit was immediately filled Wu Wuxian's sky-piercing master realm. After that, Wu Wuxian did not even mention Zhuowen. Instead, he said indifferently, "Now that the second stage is over, the 108 contestants have been chosen. I will give you 3 days to rest. Rest in the guarded ground. The heavens, the energy in the guarded ground is much. Is the energy. Is heavens, is the realm world way. Is the heavens world. 3. I is master realm, I, Wu Wuxian and Wu Wuxian, studio, Wu Wuxian studio, Wu studio. Brother Long, you have to be careful of Wu Wuxian. Due to your outstanding performance in the second round, Wu Wuxian might hold a grudge against you." Jingshan's voice rang in Zhuowen's mind as soon as he arrived beside Crepestar Sovereign. Zhuowen turned his head and looked at Jingshan. He nodded at her, indicating that he knew what he was doing. "Brother Zhuo, you should have come down earlier. You stole Wu Xingyuan's limelight. I'm afraid the witch tribe will do something to you." Crepestar Sovereign sighed. Zhuowen smiled. "Brother Crepestar Sovereign, the reason why I didn't come down is that the pressure from the witch statue is beneficial to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stolen the limelight. After all, the risk is too great." Crepestar Sovereign was stunned. He nodded and did not ask what benefits Zhuowen had obtained. He knew that Zhuowen had a big secret. Since Zhuowen could benefit from it, as a friend, he was happy for him. After chatting for a while, they found a remote place and sat down cross-legged, intending to adjust their state. Both Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch were not injured. Crepestar Sovereign had retreated in advance. With his strength, it would be strange if he was injured. Zhuowen's Pangu sacred body had just advanced to half an 8-star, so he was in good condition. However, he also knew that he had just advanced, so he had to consolidate his realm first to prevent it from becoming unstable. This advancement made Zhuowen very confident. If he could get the witch venom, his Pangu sacred body would be able to advance to the 8-star level. While he was consolidating his Pangu sacred body, his original body in the great world began to separate a small part of his divine soul and began to condense the second divine soul sword essence. Although Zhuowen already had the experience from last time, the process of condensing this time still caused him to grimace in pain. However, his condition was much better than the first time. After the separation of the divine soul, the rest was the continuous condensation process. It could be said that Zhuowen's divine soul and the cultivation of his physical body were not neglected. However, when he was condensing the second divine soul sword essence, Zhuowen began to find that his divine soul could not hold on any longer. He had no doubt that if he condensed the third divine soul sword essence, his divine soul would probably collapse. He knew that this was because his divine soul was not strong enough. If his divine soul was strong enough, It would be fine no matter how many divine soul sword essences he condensed. Not long after Zhuowen sat cross-legged to cultivate, he heard footsteps approaching him. He opened his eyes and found that a figure had already walked in front of him, facing him. When he saw the true face of this figure, the corners of his mouth curled into a mocking smile. The owner of this figure turned out to be the genius of the Phoenix people, Feng Bumming. Feng Bumming looked at Zhuowen, cupped his hands, and said politely, "Fellow Daoist Long, I'm Feng Bumming of the Phoenix people. I wonder if you have time, fellow Daoist Long? I have something to discuss with you." Although Feng Bumming's tone was polite, Zhuowen could still see the arrogance and displeasure in Feng Bumming's eyes. He glanced at the Phoenix Master Feng Leluo of the Phoenix People's team behind Feng Bumming. He knew that Feng Bumming had come to find him under Feng Leluo's instructions. "If you have something to say it quickly," Zhuowen said calmly. Feng Bumming was stunned and immediately flew into a rage. Fortunately, he was more scheming and did not flare up on the spot. He said in a deep voice, "Fellow Daoist Long, you have to know that I'm representing the Phoenix people to find you. Is this your attitude? Are the Phoenix people that great? I've even killed Shiyu from the Gaol clan. Why would I be afraid of you Phoenix people? Or are you saying that the Phoenix people are much stronger than the Gaol clan?" Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Feng Bumming was flustered and exasperated, but he did not dare to respond to Zhuowen's words. Although the Phoenix people were part of the top 10 clans, their strength was not ranked high. On the other hand, the Gaol clan was very strong and could be ranked in the top 3 among the top 10 clans. Chapter 33-41. The Third Stage. In the end, Feng Bumming did not manage to find a chance to discuss with Zhuowen. Instead, he was furious. When Feng Bumming told Feng Leluo about the conversation between him and Zhuowen, Feng Leluo was not angry. Instead, she looked at Zhuowen seriously. From Feng Bumming's words, she could tell that the dragon language seemed to be prejudiced against the Phoenix people. However, Feng Leluo knew very well that the Phoenix people did not recognize the dragon language at all. This made Feng Leluo feel strange, and she felt a little uneasy. Not long after Feng Bumming left, the geniuses of the other big tribes came to Zhuowen one after another. Unfortunately, they were all rejected by Zhuowen. This made many geniuses of the foreign tribes unhappy with Zhuowen. 3 days passed quickly, and Zhuowen had completely consolidated his half-step to 8-star realm. Even if he did not rely on the Pangu banner, the aura on his body would not easily leak out and be detected by others. Meanwhile, Wu Wuxian walked out of the sorcerer tribe's hall again. This time, Wu Wuxian only brought Wu Xingyuan, Wu Shuran, and Wu Wenbin, the 3 geniuses who were participating in the Sorcerer Song Conference. As for the other sorcerer tribe elites, he did not bring them along. Moreover, many of the foreign tribes in the square also noticed that Wu Wuxian, who had just walked out, had a look of anxiety in his eyes. He seemed to be a little absent-minded. Zhuowen also noticed Wu Wuxian's anxious expression, and he was a little confused. What could have happened that would make the high priest of the sorcerer tribe, who was in a high position, so anxious? Zhuowen could not help but recall that when Wu Wuxian had come out to host the conference, he had said that the sorcerer tribe had an important guest, and the sorcerer tribe's holy master had personally received that important guest. Zhuowen believed that the only person who could make Wu Wuxian so anxious was the important guest that even the sorcerer tribe's holy master had to personally receive. Thinking of this, Zhuowen was very curious about the important guest who had come to the sorcerer tribe. What kind of person could make a peerless tribe like the sorcerer tribe so cautious? The anxiety on Wu Wuxian's face was quickly concealed. She walked to the front of the square and said in a low voice, "The 108 contestants who advanced in the second round, I wonder if you have adjusted your conditions. If you have adjusted, then gather in front of me." After Wu Wuxian, Zhuowen and Purple Star Sovereign, the Star, and the 108 foreign tribes, and Wu Wuxian, all gathered star. Wu Wuxian, and Wu Wuxian was Wu Wuxian realm, Wu Wuxian, Wu, and Wuxian Wu Wu. Zhuowen looked at Wu Xingyuan and realized that Wu Xingyuan had recovered. He was still looking down on the world as if he was standing on the clouds, overlooking all the living things in the world. Moreover, since Wu Xingyuan appeared, he didn't even look at Zhuo Wen. This was blatant disregard. However, Zhuo Wen did not care. He knew that Wu Xingyuan had adjusted his state of mind. In this state, Wu Xingyuan was the most terrifying. He really had the foundation to look down on all the geniuses of his generation. Even Zhuo Wen could not help but admire Wu Xingyuan. If he had fought Wu Xingyuan before, he would not have thought that his chances of winning were high. However, his Pangu sacred body had improved. If he used all the power in his body, his chances of winning against Wu Xingyuan were at least 50%. The third round of the competition is very simple. Do you see the 12 wizard statues around you? Inside each wizard statue, there is a mysterious and vast space. You can choose one of the wizard statues and enter it to fight. The final winner will get one of the 12 spots, Wu Wuxian said calmly. Hearing this, all the foreign tribes could not help but look at the 12 wizard statues around them. They knew that the third round of the competition was similar to the first round. They would choose one wizard statue and the final winner would get one spot. From there, the 12 spots would be chosen. In an instant, many of the foreign tribes looked at the top geniuses of the top 10 tribes with fear. For example, Wu Xingyuan, Shifu, and other famous and terrifying geniuses. They knew very well that they had no chance of winning against such geniuses. In the end, they would become the stepping stones of others. You can start choosing now. This round is similar to the first round. If you die in the space of the wizard statues, you will not really die. A substitute will automatically be born to die in your place. The loser will be eliminated directly. Hearing this, Wu Wuxian looked at the 108 contestants in front of the square. However, none of the contestants started choosing. They were sizing up their opponents and paying attention to their every move. Obviously, they were planning to choose after the others. They hoped that they could choose a space of a weaker wizard statue. Brother Long Wen, do you dare to enter the candle dragon statue with me? Suddenly, Wu Xingyuan, who was standing at the front, turned around and looked at Zhuo Wen. Wu Xingyuan's voice immediately attracted the attention of all the foreign tribes. Everyone looked at Zhuo Wen. They were very surprised. They didn't expect Wu Xingyuan to ask Zhuo Wen to enter the ancestral witch statue with him. This was a challenge. Zhuo Wen shook his head and said, Brother Xingyuan, you are very powerful. However, I don't think there is a need for us to fight so early. In fact, there is no need for us to fight at all. Zhuo Wen's goal was to enter the wizard magical pond. He would not enter the wizard statue where Wu Xingyuan was. There were too many variables and it was not worth it. Wu Xingyuan nodded and remained expressionless. He turned around and no longer paid attention to Zhuo Wen. He took a step forward and entered the candle dragon statue. Haha, I thought that this Long Wen would be so unyielding. I didn't expect him to be such a coward. Qian Ping, who was in the Moonwolf tribe, said with disdain. Qian Ping was not the only one. Many of the geniuses who had high hopes for Zhuo Wen shook their heads when they saw that Zhuo Wen did not dare to accept the challenge. At the same time, many of the foreign tribe geniuses who saw Zhuo Wen as their opponent heaved a sigh of relief. After all, Zhuo Wen had defeated Wu Xingyuan in the second round and they subconsciously thought that Zhuo Wen was not weak. Now, it seemed that Su Mo had defeated Wu Xingyuan in the second round because of luck and not because of his real strength. Since that was the case, many of the foreign tribe geniuses were less fearful of Zhuo Wen than before. After Wu Xingyuan entered the candle dragon statue, Wu Qiutong, Feng Bumming, and the rest of the geniuses from the top 10 tribes chose the statues that they liked. However, they were smart and they purposely avoided the statues of the top geniuses from the top 10 tribes. Shifu from the Corpse Ghost tribe did not choose the wizard statue. He crossed his arms and looked at Zhuo Wen coldly. Shifu's action naturally attracted the attention of many of the surrounding foreign tribes. They quickly understood the Shifu's attitude. The Shifu was waiting for Long Wen to enter first before going in. It seems that Shifu is targeting Long Wen. I'm afraid Long Wen will be eliminated this time. If Shifu and Long Wen enter the same statue, Long Wen will definitely be eliminated. Long Wen's performance in the second round had nothing to do with his strength. If it's a real battle, then this Long Wen can only be considered to be at the bottom of the 108 contestant. Chapter 3342. Di Jiangzhuan glanced at the Shifu, who was looking at him mockingly, and sneered in his heart. He was indeed afraid of Wu Xingyuan, but it did not mean that he was afraid of the Shifu. After all, Wu Xingyuan was the #1 genius of the sorcerer tribe. He had a unique and terrifying force, and he cultivated both the way of heaven and the sorcerer physique. He was at the middle stage of the master of heaven, and his strength was much stronger than the Shifu. He was confident that he had a 50% chance of winning against Wu Xingyuan, and he had a 100% chance of winning against the Shifu. The reason why he had not entered yet was that he was observing Feng Buming's movements. He and the Phoenix people were already mortal enemies. Feng Buming had threatened to kill him several times, and he would not rest until he was dead. He naturally did not intend to let the Phoenix people get a spot to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Feng Buming was very cautious. He had not chosen the ancestral sorcerer's statue yet. He knew very well how important this spot was to him and the Phoenix people. This was the last round. As long as he could stand out in this round, the spot to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond would be at his fingertips. This was also his last chance. He knew very well that if he couldn't even get a single spot, he might even lose his life. Therefore, he had to be cautious and cautious. Feng Buming glanced at the Shifu. Among the geniuses of the 10 great clans, only the Shifu had not entered. In other words, among the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues, 3 of them did not have the top geniuses of the 10 great clans. Feng Buming was a little worried. If he chose an ancestral sorcerer's statue and the Shifu entered the same statue, wouldn't that be terrible? However, Feng Buming could also see that the Shifu was waiting for Long Wen's situation. If Long Wen did not move, the Shifu would not do anything either. Feng Buming looked coldly at Long Wen. He did not want to wait any longer. In his opinion, Long Wen would not be so stupid. He knew that the Shifu would target him, but he still dared to enter the ancestral sorcerer's statue where Feng Buming was. That was simply courting death. Feng Buming and the others had the same idea. Long Wen came from a small clan after all. How powerful could he be? He could not be compared to the top geniuses of the 10 great clans. He believed that Long Wen was a smart person. Thinking of this, Feng Buming chose the statue of Di Jiang. This was one of the remaining 3 statues that did not contain the top geniuses of the other top 10 clans. The Phoenix Master, Feng Leluo, who was standing in front of the square, nodded to herself after seeing Feng Buming make his choice. In Feng Leluo's opinion, as long as there were no top geniuses from the other 10 major clans, Feng Buming would definitely be able to get a spot. As for Shifu, he did not think that Shifu would choose the same witch ancestor statue as Feng Buming because there was no need. After all, other than the 3 geniuses of the sorcerer tribe, the remaining 9 geniuses of the top 10 tribes were enough for the geniuses of the other top 10 tribes to share. There was no need for Shifu to choose the same ancestral witch statue as Feng Buming. If he had chosen the same one, he would have become enemies with the Phoenix people. The loss outweighed the gain. When Zhuoan saw that Feng Buming had entered the statue of Dejiang, the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. With a kick of his right foot, he flew directly toward the statue of Dejiang. You finally moved. I thought you were going to be like a coward and not dare to go out. Shifu sneered and followed behind Zhuoan. The actions of Zhuoan and Shifu immediately attracted the attention of many foreign clans. After all, Zhuoan's performance in the second stage was too eye-catching, and Shifu was one of the top geniuses. The actions of these 2 people had no choice but to be noticed. When Zhuoan and Shifu entered the statue of Dejiang at the same time, Feng Leluo of the Phoenix people was so angry that his face turned ashen. He did not expect that Long Wen would choose the statue of Dejiang where Feng Buming was and even lead Shifu in. This was definitely intentional. Even Corpse Yinmarsh was startled. He naturally had no objection to Shifu dealing with Long Wen and even approved of it. However, Long Wen had entered the statue of Dejiang where Feng Bumming was. This was going to cause trouble. Interesting. This Long Wen actually chose to enter the statue of ancestral sorcerer where Feng Bumming is. I don't know if it's intentional or not. The patriarch of the Moon Wolf clan, Yi Taihe, narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself. Qian Ping, who was standing beside Yi Taihe, sneered and mocked. This Long Wen really doesn't know what's good for him. The Shi Fu has already targeted him and he still chose to enter the statue of ancestral sorcerer where Feng Bumming is. A dead pig is not afraid of boiling water. The moment Zhuowen entered the statue of ancestral sorcerer, he felt that the world was spinning. Soon after, he found that his feet were stepping on a thick ground. The moment he landed on the ground, a pleasant singing voice reverberated in his ears. This voice was filled with a magnetic male voice. He raised his head and found that he was standing at the foot of a mountain. Above his head was a steep and dangerous mountain peak. This mountain peak was huge. It was definitely the largest mountain that Zhuowen had seen in countless years. At the peak of the mountain, there was a heavy snowfall, covering the mountain peak with a thick layer of snow. Zhuowen looked around and found that other than this mountain peak, there was nothing else. Moreover, he did not see the Shi Fu that had followed him into the statue of ancestral sorcerer. It was as if he was the only one here. Let's go up and take a look. Zhuowen stepped toward the peak of the mountain. This space was very strange. His divine will couldn't extend as far as it wanted, and could only detect a very short distance. This mountain was too big. Within the range of Zhuowen's divine thought, he did not see any other contestants at all. He could only continue to climb up. When Zhuowen climbed halfway up the mountain, the entire mountain peak shook violently. Immediately, Zhuowen saw an unprecedentedly huge figure in the sky filled with heavy snowfall. This figure was even bigger than the mountain peak. It hovered above the sky and cast a shadow that enveloped the entire mountain peak. Moreover, as this figure continued to hover, it was singing an ancient and vicissitude song. The song was pleasing to the ear and carried a sense of history that had been immersed in for a long time. It spread throughout the space where the mountain peak was located. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and finally saw the huge figure hovering in the sky. This figure was shaped like a yellow sack and was as red as fire. It had 6 legs and 4 wings and was completely without a face. It's Dejiang. No, it's not the real Dejiang. It should be an illusion of Dejiang. The moment Zhuowen saw the figure clearly, he knew that this was the illusion of ancestral sorcerer Dejiang. Its figure was almost exactly the same as the statue of Dejiang outside. However, this illusion of Dejiang was many times larger than the statue. Zhuowen knew very well that this illusion of Dejiang should be the master who had built the statue. In this space, he had set up a projection array, mainly to show the demeanor of ancestral sorcerer. He believed that in the other 11 ancestral sorcerer statues, there should be illusions of ancestral sorcerer like this one. Shi Fu, why are you here? Why did you enter the world of Dejiang's statue? Suddenly, in the distance above the mountain peak, there was a strong battle fluctuation. Then, Zhuowen heard Feng Bumming's shocked and angry voice. "Haha. Do I need your permission to choose which statue I want? Feng Bumming, you think too highly of yourself." Then, Shi Fu's cold laughter was heard. Chapter 33:43. Humiliation. When Zhuowen arrived at the peak of the mountain, he realized that there was a wide open space on the peak. However, under the influence of the heavy snow, the open space was covered by a thick layer of snow. It looked more like a world of ice and snow. There were 10 figures gathered on the open space. Zhuowen could tell at a glance that these 10 figures were the foreign tribe geniuses who were participating in the 3rd stage of the Sorcerer Song Conference. Of course, the most obvious ones were the 2 figures standing in the middle of the open space, facing each other from afar. These 2 figures were the Phoenix People's genius, Feng Bumming, and the Corpse Ghost Clan's genius, Shi Fu. The other 8 foreign tribe geniuses all retreated far away and looked at the 2 of them with fear in their eyes. These foreign tribe geniuses were all powerful to be able to make it to the 3rd stage of the Sorcerer Song Conference. However, no matter how powerful they were, They were nothing in front of Feng Bumming and Shifu, two monstrous geniuses. Now that these two geniuses were facing each other, it was an opportunity for them. After all, they had no chance of winning if they were to face these two geniuses head-on. However, if Shifu and Feng Bumming were both injured, they would have a great chance of winning. Now, they only needed to sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight. It would not be too late for them to make a move when they fought to the death. Feng Bumming's expression was ugly. At the same time, he could not understand why Shifu chose his wizard ancestor statue. He did not seem to have any grudges with Shifu. Although their realms were about the same, they were both early-stage masters of heaven. However, Feng Bumming knew very well that he was much weaker than Shifu in terms of strength. After all, he had just become a master of heaven not long ago, while Shifu was already an early-stage master of heaven 1,000 years ago. Shifu was probably not far from the middle-stage master of heaven now. He only needed an opportunity to successfully break through. Feng Bumming admitted that he was inferior to such a powerhouse. Brother Shifu, you and I don't have to face each other now. It's not worth it. Weren't you staring at Long Wen earlier? Why didn't you enter the wizard ancestor statue where Long Wen was? Feng Bumming said helplessly. Shifu sneered. I was following Long Wen. Feng Bumming, although you are no match for me, I don't want to fight you either. After all, you and I are both from the 10 great clans. However, that Long Wen is extremely bold. He followed closely behind you after you entered the Di Jiang statue. You also know that I must personally annihilate that Long Wen. After all, I already have a great enmity with that bastard. Since he has entered the statue of Dejiang, you should understand why I am here. Upon hearing this, Feng Bumming's pupils constricted. The fury in his eyes was as violent as a volcanic eruption. Long Wen, that bastard, he intentionally lured you here. Feng Bumming was burning with anger. He did not expect that Long Wen would dare to do such a thing. He must have done it on purpose. At this moment, Feng Bumming was completely jealous of Long Wen. I don't care if he did it on purpose or not. My goal is to humiliate him and defeat him in my hands. After the Sorcerer Song Festival, I will personally kill this piece of trash. Then, the race behind him will be exterminated. Shifu's gaze was calm. He did not take Feng Bumming seriously at all. This made Feng Bumming feel humiliated. Brother Shifu, please wait a moment. I, Feng Bumming, know that if I fight with you, there is a high chance that I will lose. I admit that I am not as good as you. Feng Bumming saw that Shifu was about to attack and quickly stopped him. It's not that there is a high chance that you will lose, but that you will definitely lose. Feng Bumming, if you surrender and commit suicide now, I won't have to eliminate you, Shifu said proudly. Feng Bumming frowned slightly and said in a low voice, Brother Shifu, that Long Wen is playing with us. Moreover, he wants to reap the benefits. Are you really going to fall into his trap? Shifu sneered and said, Feng Bumming, how can I not know that ant's tricks? But so what if that ant is playing tricks in front of me? After I kill you, I will kill him. The outcome will be the same. In the face of absolute strength, what is the use of that ant's tricks? It is just a last-ditch struggle. Feng Bumming's face was gloomy. Shifu's contemptuous tone made him very unhappy. Brother Shifu, I admit that I am not your opponent, but it is not that easy for you to get rid of me. You may not understand what I mean. Since you were brought in by that Long Wen, I can't take this lying down. Feng Bumming said. Oh, what do you mean? Shifu stopped and looked at Feng Bumming up and down. I will help you destroy that Long Wen. After I get rid of that damned Long Wen, we will decide the winner. Feng Bumming gritted his teeth and said. That Long Wen dared to trick him. He must take revenge personally. He did not want to let Long Wen get away with it. Hehe, in that case, I will give you a chance. I will let you deal with that Long Wen. However, you must die in front of me, Shifu said. Of course, Feng Bumming said with a smile. After Shifu and Feng Bumming reached an agreement, they stopped fighting. They both planned to find that Long Wen first, get rid of him, and then decide the winner. As for the 8 foreign races hiding in the distance, when they saw that Shifu and Feng Bumming had stopped fighting and had reached an agreement, Their eyes revealed a look of regret. Feng bumming, Shifu, you make it sound so easy. You find me as if you can kill me, but I think it is the opposite. When you meet me, you will all run away with your tails between your legs. No, you won't even have the chance to escape. You can only be killed by me with your tails between your legs. A voice full of mockery came from afar. On the mountain rampart outside the open space, a figure landed on the open space like lightning. This person stepped on the snow without leaving a trace. In the heavy snow, he was like a spotless white lotus. Even the snowflakes could not stain his body. Long Wen, Shifu looked at this figure, and the murderous intent in his eyes uncontrollably surged. Feng bumming gritted his teeth as he looked at this figure, as if he wanted to skin this person alive. The 8 foreign race geniuses hiding at the side also looked at Zhuowen in surprise. They did not expect Long Wen to be so bold. Feng bumming and Shifu were both here, but he still dared to come over so openly. Was he here to die? Long Wen, you are really something. After today, I, Feng bumming, will kill you on behalf of the Phoenix people. Feng bumming said coldly. You? Are you worthy? Zhuowen glanced at Feng bumming indifferently, but sneered disdainfully. This time, he really angered Feng bumming. Shifu despised him in every way, and he accepted it. After all, it was a fact that Shifu was stronger than him. However, who was this Long Wen? He was just an ant from a small race. He actually put on such a high attitude and looked down on him. What was this Long Wen? Chapter 3344. Violent beating. The moment Feng bumming attacked, Shifu stood motionless. He stared at Zhuowen and wanted to see how Long Wen would dodge Feng bumming's attack. Although he had a deep impression of Zhuowen's powerful killing of Shiyu in the guarded ground. But in his opinion, there was still a big gap between him and an early-stage master of heaven like Feng bumming. Die. Feng bumming's right hand formed a palm and slammed down. Terrifying flames covered the surface of his palm like lightning. In an instant, the surrounding temperature, which was originally cold because of the heavy snow, suddenly rose and became as hot as a furnace. The thick snow melted into water vapor on a large scale. Feng bumming had used all his strength. This move poured out most of his power, which was enough to seriously injure an early-stage master of heaven. The faces of the other foreign tribe geniuses, who were hiding at the side, changed when they saw Feng bumming's move. Their pupils shrank. They knew that Zhuowen was finished. Feng bumming's move was too terrifying. Shifu also nodded secretly. Feng bumming's move was very powerful. Even if he faced it head-on, he would have to put in some effort to resolve it. What's more, the one facing this move was Zhuowen, who he had always thought of as a nobody. Zhuowen stood in the same place, his eyes cold. He looked at Feng bumming's approaching palm wrapped in monstrous flames and sneered in his heart. It was just an ordinary punch. Before he had broken through, he had already defeated Feng bumming. Now that his Pangu sacred body had improved again, he did not take Feng bumming seriously at all. Boom! The moment the fist and palm collided, an extremely terrifying torrent burst out. A dazzling light burst out between Zhuowen and Feng bumming, like a rising sun, emitting light and heat to its heart's content. Feng bumming's face changed. The moment he came into contact with Zhuowen's fist, he felt an extremely terrifying and irresistible force surging over and filling his entire body. Fart! Feng bumming spat out a mouthful of blood. The power of the palm was completely dissolved. Feng bumming's eyes were filled with horror. He hurriedly retreated, intending to escape from the explosion. Unfortunately, a hand quickly reached out. Before Feng bumming could react, the hand grabbed his neck and lifted him in the air. Ah! Feng bumming cried out in grief and indignation. He summoned all the energy in his body, trying to break free from the hand. Unfortunately, he failed in the end. This palm seemed to have an earth-shattering power, firmly clasping his neck. He couldn't break free at all. And Feng bumming also saw the true face of this palm. How is this possible? Long Feng bumming translation. With great difficulty, his heart was in turbulence of Long Wen. At this moment, The aftermath of the battle had completely dissipated. When the remaining 8 outsiders and the corpse pups saw the scene in the middle of the battle, they were all stunned. Zhuo stood at his original spot like a spear, and Feng Buming, who was still terrifying just now, was easily lifted up by Zhuo with one hand. He was in an extremely sorry state and was extremely humiliated. What's with this dragon text? Did Feng Buming lose to him? Aren't you spouting nonsense? Didn't you see Feng Buming struggling in Long Wen's hands? This Long Wen really hid his strength well. His strength is actually so terrifying that even Feng Buming was beaten so badly by him. As for the 8 outsiders who were hiding far away from Zhuo, they all retreated as far as they could, trying their best to get as far away from him as possible. They knew that they had underestimated Long Wen before. Who would have thought that Long Wen would be so powerful that he could take care of Feng Buming in such a short period of time? Even a corpse servant might not be able to do it. With these thoughts in mind, the 8 outsiders couldn't help but fix their eyes on the corpse pup. Shi Fu stood in place with his brows slightly furrowed, as if he was thinking about something. Shi Fu's shock was no less than that of the 8 outsiders. He had always regarded Zhuo as an ant and felt that as long as he made a move, it would be more than enough to take down Zhuo. But now, his thoughts were shaken because Long Wen had actually defeated Feng Buming in one move. He already had the strength of an early-stage Master of Heaven, and it was not the strength of an ordinary early-stage Master of Heaven. At least, he had the strength to fight against him. Brother Shi Fu, what are you still standing there for? This Long Wen is not simple. Let's work together to destroy him. Feng Buming saw that Shi Fu was in a daze and hurriedly shouted excitedly. Now that he was restrained by Zhuo, he could not break free at all. He could only place his hopes on Shi Fu. Noisy. Zhuo snorted coldly, and his right hand suddenly exploded with a terrifying power. Feng Buming screamed as this terrifying power invaded his body. Then, his body exploded inch by inch. In the end, his entire body exploded into a cloud of blood mist, and he couldn't be more dead. After killing Feng Buming, Zhuo turned to look at Shi Fu and said indifferently, "It's your turn next." Shi Fu's face was gloomy. He was now full of fear for Zhuo. "You're just from a small clan. Why do you have such powerful strength? You must have some unspeakable secret." "Long Wen, I've changed my mind now. After the Sorcerer Song Conference, I don't plan to kill you. Our Corpse Ghost clan won't pursue what you did before. As long as you hand over your secret, we'll automatically withdraw from this situation. Not only will you not die, but I'll also make you a dog of our Corpse Ghost clan," Shi Fu said. "Idiot. Today, not only will I kill you, but I'm also not afraid of your Corpse Ghost clan. If your Corpse Ghost clan wants to go against me, then I'll destroy your Corpse Ghost clan." After Zhuo slowly finished speaking, he disappeared on the spot, leaving behind only a terrifying wave of air. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Shi Fu. His right fist blasted out like lightning, carrying the power of thousands of kilograms. It was indestructible. Shi Fu's face turned ugly. He also attacked with all his strength and said coldly, "If that's the case, then you're dead. Even if you kneel and beg for mercy after this, you're still dead. Also, don't think that you're my opponent just because you killed Feng Buming. In my eyes, Feng Buming is just a piece of trash. It's very easy for me to kill him." Bang! 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 In just an instant, Zhuo and Shi Fu collided. Terrifying explosions continued to explode around the two of them. Fart! After more than 10 rounds, Shi Fu suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground in a sorry state. Zhuo floated in the air and looked down at Shi Fu, who was struggling on the ground. After the Pangu sacred body was promoted, his physical strength had reached an extremely terrifying level. After all, his sacred body had already peeked into the mysteries of the 8 stars. His strength had increased significantly. Chapter 3345 The Might of the Divine Soul Sword. Intent. Feng Buming is indeed a good-for-nothing, and you're just a good-for-nothing who's slightly stronger than Feng Buming. You're just 2 good-for-nothings. Do you think you're great to be gossiping behind my back? Zhuoan floated in midair and looked down at Shifu from above. His voice was as loud as muffled thunder. Shifu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and struggled to stand up. He raised his head and looked at Zhuoan in horror, but his expression became very ugly. He knew that he had underestimated Long Wen. With the powerful strength that Long Wen displayed just now, he could probably compete with Wu Xingyuan. Especially Zhuoan's words just now, it was like a needle piercing his heart, causing him unbearable pain and grief. Long Wen, I've underestimated you. I really didn't expect your strength to be so amazing, but I'm afraid it won't be that easy for you to defeat me. Shifu's eyes were cold, and the black gas around him suddenly swept out. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Then, 9 black figures rushed out from the black gas and surrounded Zhuoan in an instant. Zhuoan looked carefully and found that these 9 black shadows were actually 9 pitch-black skulls. Each skull was only the size of a fist. Especially the empty eyes of these skulls, they seemed to be staring at him, looking extremely strange. 9 skulls encirclement. Shifu's voice was sharp. He formed a seal with both hands and bit the tip of his tongue at the same time, spitting on the 9 skulls. Suddenly, the aura of the 9 skulls became exceptionally powerful and terrifying. Endless black gas surged out like a wave, as if it had turned into a black cloud sea. Zhuoan could feel an unparalleled killing intent within the sea of black clouds. He knew that this should be Shifu's final trump card. Its power was very impressive. Even Zhuoan revealed a solemn expression. On the other hand, after Shifu spat out the blood essence, his face was extremely pale, like the face of a dead person. Obviously, the price Shifu paid to use this move should be extremely high. Long Wen, you can use this move before me, so you can be considered to have died a worthy death. The corpse pup's voice was as sharp as a malicious spirit's as it let out a hideous laugh. This 9 skulls encirclement was a terrifying secret technique that he had to expend a large amount of blood essence to activate. In the past, he had relied on this secret art to severely injure a mid-stage heaven-reaching master. Although he was only a mid-stage Empyrean Lord, he was still a mid-stage Empyrean Lord. He was much stronger than an early-stage Empyrean Lord. From this, one could see how terrifying Shifu's secret technique was. The expressions of the other 8 outsider geniuses, who were watching from afar, changed drastically the moment Shipiyu used the 9 skeletons siege. They had all heard of Shipiyu's trump card and knew how terrifying it was. As far as they were concerned, even if this move couldn't destroy Long Wen, it would definitely be able to heavily injure him. Boom! Boom! The 9 skulls let out ear-piercing screeches and immediately rushed over from 9 different directions. In an instant, they exploded on Zhuoan's body. Countless black chi spread out, blocking his line of sight. He could only hear the terrifying and sharp explosions inside. Poochie! Shipiyu fell to the ground and spat out another mouthful of blood. However, his expression was quite relaxed. He was confident that this 9 skulls encirclement would definitely be able to kill Zhuoan. This was because his secret technique had never failed before. Boom! The fluctuations of the 9 skulls encirclement soon dissipated, but an indifferent voice came from midair. Shipiyu, is this your trump card? It's just SOSO. Shipiyu suddenly raised his head and looked at Zhuoan, who was in midair, in disbelief. He saw that Zhuoan's body was surrounded by a dazzling white light. This white light was like a protective shield that enveloped Zhuoan's body, forming a powerful defense. Although there were many cracks on the surface of this white light, Zhuoan did not suffer any damage. Most of the damage was blocked by this white light that covered the surface of his body. The moment the 9 skulls encirclement completely erupted, Zhuoan used the profound light of creation. The 5 profound meanings that he had mastered were the most compatible with the Pangu sacred body. As the realm of his Pangu sacred body increased, the power of the 5 profound meanings also increased. His Pangu sacred body was already invincible and had an amazing defense. In addition to the terrifying defensive power of the profound light of creation, Zhuoan was able to withstand the full force attack of a middle-stage Tongtian master, let alone Shipiyu's desperate attack. This is impossible. You're completely fine. Shipiyu screamed and was on the verge of collapse. This was his best trump card. It had once severely injured a middle-stage Tongtian master, but this guy had actually blocked it. At this moment, Shi Piyu's confidence completely collapsed, and he even became afraid. He realized that Long Wen's strength was much stronger than his. This thought made him crazy, and he did not want to believe it at all. Bang! Zhuo Wen leaped down and stomped the corpse beneath his feet. After Shi Piyu used the 9 skulls encirclement, he had almost exhausted all of his energy. At this moment, he was almost powerless to resist. Long Wen, it's useless for you to kill me here. After I die, I'll immediately be resurrected in the outside world. At that time, the Gao clan will not let you go. They'll definitely hunt you down and kill you. What's the use of being strong? No matter how strong you are, can you compete with our Gao clan? Shi Piyu shouted crazily. Haha. Just because of what you said, you'll die here. You won't have a chance to get out alive. Zhuowen sneered. What kind of joke is this? It's impossible to really die here. Shi Piyu sneered. You're right. In this world, before you die, it will protect your divine soul and teleport your divine soul out. Our physical bodies are automatically formed by this world. Destroying your physical body naturally won't kill you. However, before your divine soul transmits, destroying your divine soul, you're naturally dead for sure too. Zhuo Wen said coolly. Shi Piyu shuddered and immediately laughed. Destroy my divine soul? Long Wen, you're thinking too much. This world has rules. When my divine soul is damaged, my divine soul will immediately be teleported away. You can at most injure my divine soul a little. You can't destroy it at all. Ordinary methods indeed can't do it. But an attack targeting the divine soul is sufficient. As Zhuowen said, he stirred up the divine soul sword intent that had already condensed into a sword inside his divine soul. The instant Shi Piyu became absent-minded, the divine soul sword intent suddenly swept out from between Zhuowen's brows, turning into a formless and immaterial sword intent, instantly rushing into the depths of Shi Piyu's glabella. Before his glabella reacted, he only felt his divine soul turn into a mass of paste, and could not help crying out miserably. At the instant Shi Piyu's divine soul was wantonly destroyed, Zhuowen could clearly feel that inside this world, there was a force wrapping Shi Piyu's divine soul and teleporting it away. But Zhuowen was not worried. His divine soul sword intent was too powerful. Furthermore, it already entered the interior of Shi Piyu's divine soul. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.